Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to another episode of Lack of Focus, episode 97, AMG-Wing 2.5. I am your host, Ed Horn, and alongside me tonight, my good friend, Mr. Sean Dorsey. Sean, how's it going, my friend?
Oh, just as disgruntled as I can be about AMG 2.5 now. I'm doing
No,
good.
no, no. Everything's
I'm doing good.
fine. And
Actually enjoying my time with it.
so have I. So have I. I've been having a lot of fun. List building was an adventure this past week to get ready for the show. But we'll get into all that. And of course, our producer extraordinaire, Mr. Kris Sheriff. Kris, how's it going, my friend?
Good, thanks, Ed.
All right, so it's time. We have now officially had the full rules, scenario, points, ban list, and some errata cards that you get to print out and take with you when you're going to events. So here we are. It's official March 1st, I believe, or is it March 1st the official date for the new rules of X-Wing? The only gripe that I have is I genuinely do wish that AMG had literally put the tag X-Wing 2.5 or X-Wing 3rd edition on, because this really isn't second edition anymore. It's as different to second edition as second edition was to first edition, in my opinion.
I think it's a bigger change, a bigger deviation, to be honest.
I think so.
Yeah, I agreed. No, I was trying to lessen the blow a little, but no, I would agree. It's a pretty significant change. So, of course, that's going to be the main topic for the show. We're going to go over. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there. We're not going to go over every little infinitum point change, but we are going to give at least a quick summary and kind of our thoughts and do some list building today under the new sets of rules. But before we do that, let's talk about what we've been doing in gaming lately. Sean, what have you been up to lately, my friend?
I did this interesting thing called applying primer to models.
Ooh.
Now 2 years from now, of course, I'll probably try to paint the models, but at least there's primer. Now when they go on the table, they'll be blue. So
now, did you airbrush these? Is that how you did it?
No. I just did the McCrag blue spray can, primer.
So I just did the Death Guard green. Gabe was getting ready to start painting. He got some Death Shroud Terminators for his birthday. He wanted the Chaos Death Guard champion for one reason and one reason only. It was one bit that he wanted, which is a little sassy nurgling. It's got its hands on a tip and it's got a little helmet on. That's all he wanted. He didn't care. He could care less about the champion that was in there. He wanted the little sassy nurgling so he could put it on his Mortarion model, which is what he did. But yeah, no, I got the opportunity to spray paint Mortarion and a bunch of Death Shrouds and a champion. And I was really surprised at how well that covers. Like, I was honestly expecting it's GW paint. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know. I don't know what I was going in thinking. I thought maybe I was going to use a half a can going through, but no, it was really good, really high quality paint, really easy to do.
Yeah, it's easy stuff. My son did more of his Thousand Suns, so we kind of did it. He did his with whatever the gold is, and then I did the blue, and then my Imperium models, I'm actually doing those in the Chaos Black primer, and then I'll base them blue. So I'm going to do those differently, just to see the difference if you're using, the black as the primer compared to the blue. So they'll be my guinea pigs on that. But yeah, it was a nice day. It was 45 with no humidity today, so it was perfect. Perfect, yeah, sunny day.
I did like that 2 days ago. That's why I primed then.
Yeah, and then it kind of got breezy after about the second stint on it, and
I hate that.
Well, it's funny because when my son comes over on Saturdays and we hang out, and we went to the Games Workshop store because I just wanted to make sure I had enough McCrag blue. I have 2.5 cans left of it, but I have a lot of models and terrain and ships and stuff to paint still. So I just wanted to make sure I had enough on hand.
Did I ever give you the sticky tack advice on how to use sticky tack to help with priming those?
No, actually, what I do is we bought those figure wands that they have.
There you go. That's a good one.
Yeah, so we can do 6, basically 6 of them at a time, and you just turn the wand as you go, and to me, priming's easy. It's just trying to keep under control and everything else, and short blasts, not big ass long blasts and things.
And don't shotgun them in the face whenever you're doing it.
Yeah, it's
filling all that detail.
One of the things when you're looking, like when you're spraying the faces and things like that, there are times when no matter what you try to do, it still puts too much on because the heads on those guys are so small.
Yeah, but especially with good quality paint, that kind of lays down. So
That's
for example, I'll reach up and grab. You guys aren't going to be able to see this unless you're actually watching the video version of this. I did this Terminator in gray, and I was in a very similar situation with what Sean was had, where I had wind, and I was trying to go counter the wind as I was priming it, and
yeah,
the wind just basically blew the whole stream right into his face. And I'm like, oh god, that's going to fill in all that detail. But as the paint laid down and as it dried, didn't cover over a slightest amount of the detail. So I was really surprised.
yeah. It's just when you're doing it though, and you're not very experienced at it, you're like crap. But
Yep,
then
yep, that's definitely an oh shit moment.
yeah, and then you just kind of back off and realize, well, if worst comes to worst, I can paint thin it off and just put base coating on it and
Yeah, you can strip it off.
yeah, and not I'm not going to stress about it. They're not going to be Chris and you level models painted. They'll just be models that I paint, and I'm not going to care one way or the other if they're perfect or not. And I'm not that type of person where I go for perfection. I just go for the best I can and stuff. So
I'm kind of curious if you get the same reaction that Gabriel had. So Gabriel has gone from we start all of ours with a base gray, and then he's built up to like the Death Guard green and did all of his washes. So now that he's got these Terminators, he's working on the Terminators, and he's like, I feel like I'm being lazy because now I'm like, well, when you start off from gray, you have to hit every detail because otherwise everything's just going to be like the parts you didn't touch with paint are going to be gray. But now that everything's Death Guard green, he's like, well, I'm just going to wash over it. Do I really need to hit this and this? He feels like he's getting lazy. He's doing well though. Like
Doesn't matter as long as it looks good on the table. It doesn't matter.
that's just it.
Yeah, but he's definitely getting to that point where he wants them to look good. Like he's intentionally saving Mortarion for last because he wants to be building up that muscle memory and he wants to build up the techniques. Like the techniques he's using to paint his Poxwalkers is going to be the same techniques he does for Mortarion's wings. Being able to go through and get the good metallics and doing the highlights correctly in the metallics so that the metal looks good, but it also looks rusted. He's also going to use that. So he's using all of his other models are just test painting so that he can do Mortarion because he's expecting like 100 hours into Mortarion.
So ultimately, that was kind of my week of gaming. I had some remodeling done in the house this week, so I've been busy with that and managing my cats so that they don't run out the door and stuff like that with the contractors here. So not a whole lot of gaming. Wednesday I did more Project Zomboid and stuff, and then today we went to the Warhammer store and then did did all that stuff. So step ahead, and I built a couple X-wing lists too, and went through some, not everything, but
Kris gave us homework. He
yeah,
really
Chris.
did.
Yeah, and you'll see I kind of did my homework and then didn't do my homework. So, but there's a reason why the second part of it exists because I don't know what I want to do with it yet. So you'll see when we talk
Okay,
about it.
we'll get there. All right, I'll get mine out of the way really quick. I missed, to the best of my knowledge, going all the way back to Nova Squadron Radio, only the second episode that we've ever recorded in our histories together. I'll get it out of the way right away. My wife's father passed away 2 weeks ago. He originally lives in Philadelphia. We live here in towards the Pittsburgh area, so that's about a 5.5 hour, 6 hour drive. And of course, she rushed out there to try to be with him before he passed. Luckily, she was able to make it. However, my two oldest did not. Basically, she left out on a Friday to go and see him with my two youngest. My two oldest stayed with me. We were going to come out the next day, and he passed away that Saturday morning. So it's been a rough time to say the least. My wife did not come home. She stayed out there with her family. She just came back this Thursday. We were actually supposed to record on Thursday, and then she messaged me about 2 o'clock in the afternoon saying she was halfway home. And I'm like, well, I didn't think that I haven't seen her in 2 weeks. I didn't think it would be a good idea to be like, oh, honey, I'm so sorry your dad died. I'm so glad I get to see you for 2 weeks. Bye, I've got to go hang out with my friends. So that didn't feel like the right answer. So I elected to spend some time with her. But
we gave you permission to spend some time.
yeah, I had to get clearance. I had to had to be in writing. I had to take PTO days, but I've earned them, so I think I'm okay. So obviously, I didn't get a ton done in gaming per se, because obviously I've not been really able to leave the house. I haven't really, I physically have not gone to work. I've been staying here because I had to stay home with the kids. And Gabe's been going up to the game store and playing games, and he's basically been the de facto 40K league, which did start. It did kick off. I do get at least got the opportunity to talk about that. So the week after we recorded the show last time, our super casual 40K league kicked off. We had 10 players or 10 tables going on at the same time, like so much so that I have to say it was kind of fun. It has been, and Sean, maybe you can kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Understand where I'm coming from in this one. There's something cool about walking through a room of gamers that you've pulled all together, and while you're not necessarily on a table playing, you're bouncing from table to table, you're having quick conversations, everyone's having laughs, you're answering a rules question here, you're making a ruling over there, but for the most part, it just felt really, really good to get everyone back together and rolling dice. It was so much fun, and it's still going. Like, Gabe's been doing a really good job at least keeping everyone going. They know that I'm coming back this week, but there was like I'm not lying, there was an adrenaline rush. There was a moment where I just stopped in the corner and looked at everyone play it. I just got done making a ruling on one table and went, this is awesome. I totally missed this.
Yeah, and it's one of the things about it, is like you said, it's a rush, but it's cool because you want it to happen, and like, you set personal goals with it. And, when you do it long enough and you do it over multiple seasons, your next part of it is, your brain will go to growth. How do I grow a league? How do I do that? How do I attract new players? How do I introduce new players, especially in a game like 40K where it's a very vast game, and it's if you're trying to get into it, from the get-go, it's expensive. You could buy a combat patrol box and start out with, what, 5, 6, 700 points.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's the same thing with X-Wing. When we started X-Wing, you had 4 ships, and then all of a sudden you couldn't get 4 ships. So that's
Yeah.
that's where it's interesting, when you walk in there and you see, people wanting to play. And that's the key to it is having people that want to play, want to learn, and want to engage with other people, because that's, I think, the part of the hobby that a lot of people take for granted is that idea or concept of, the community side of it.
Yeah, because I mean,
we lose that a lot.
For me, ultimately, in the end, all of these hobbies, even if you do like X-Wing's probably a little less so than like something like 40K, but whenever you get into any kind of game that's a bit of a financial commitment, you're buying models, you're buying rules, you're buying books, like all the D&D stuff that I have sitting here, whatever it is, you want to be able to play it. There's a huge part of this is not a single player game. This isn't a video game that you can just sit down and burn hours on a controller. It's you need those other members of your community to be able to come in and play. So there's something to be said for getting involved into a game that you can actually take out and actually play with somebody else.
Exactly. Yeah, and the key is what I used to promote is, winning isn't everything, but you do have if you have league prizes and things.
So I can tell you how we did this one. The tagline for ours is it's the 40K casual leg where the wins don't count and the points don't matter.
Exactly. Yeah.
So legitimately, every person that's participated in, we're going to pull names out of a hat for first, second, and third place. So whether you won every single game you played or you lost every single game, it didn't matter. And the only requirements for scorekeeping is you need to let me know who played, who won, and a fun story at the end of everyone. And I've collected some pretty fun stories because it's supposed to be, I'm trying to draw in those players that aren't necessarily competitive. We've got three players in the league that had never played, like owned models, but hadn't played since 5th edition, 8th edition, so like haven't played in the new edition. So we're
Right.
trying to draw all these. So I can't even imagine setting that up as a quote unquote competitive league. And then heck, half the players up there aren't interested in competitive play. That's the reason why they don't play in tournaments. They don't do events like that. But to be able to
No.
get them to play just for fun, where it doesn't matter if you win or lose, you're just there for laughs. That in my mind is what brought more people in than anything else.
Yep. Exactly. And the focus that I always try to put in is, community and friendships, And
Exactly.
I look at X-Wing as, the majority of my friends, not all, but the majority of friends I have today that I play games with and do things with are X-Wing, from X-Wing. I met them all in X-Wing, because as adults, it's hard to make friends. And, I don't go to bars and I don't go to clubs and I don't go do things like that. And,
Yep, right there with you.
so your social world is, what you make of it. And, X-Wing was mine for, very hardcore for 5 years. And then, but my Wednesday night friends are all local X-Wing players, or were local X-Wing players. All of my virtual friends, as I, can call it, are all X-Wing players, or, met because of X-Wing. And you just can't beat that, and that's what
Yeah,
community does. And I, one thing about leagues to me, Ed, is I never view, we were very competitive in Omaha.
yeah,
We
a
had,
little, a little.
we had some high quality players in Omaha. And so not only did I, look at building a community, but for us, I wanted to make sure that the opportunity was for players to be good at the game, and to play the game, in a high level competitive spirit. That was kind of my undertone of the league, but the overtone was just everybody meeting new people. And there were people that were tough to get along with, and there were people that were very easy to get along with. And
I think the
you
people that
just
are tough to get along with tend to filter themselves out eventually.
yeah, over time that does happen.
Yeah, I made that realization too that you made. Like over my lifespan, all of my friend groups have involved either my D&D, Magic, or tabletop miniatures games. Like those are the
Yeah,
ones. Those are the ones that have stuck around. I've had other people on the peripheral, but the ones that have stuck around over my lifetime have all been, hey, we've played D&D for X amount of years, or we played X-Wing, or we've played Magic. Like that. That's legitimately where my friend group circles around, and I'm okay with that. I'm totally okay with that.
yeah, yeah. It's normal adult things.
It
It's
is.
that's
For
how
those of
it's.
us that don't go to bars or clubs or
Yeah,
anything like that.
us nerdy adults. That's
Yes.
how we do it.
Aside from that, I've genuinely been turning the clocks back to 2010 and spending a lot. I have beat more video games in the last 2 months than I think I have ever beat in the last 6 years. I'm having a ball playing with these old PlayStation 3 games. First of all, I don't get bothered by kids to play an old console. It's great. We've got the gaming PC here and the pseudo gaming PC here and the PlayStation's back here. So and a laptop sits back here, and then everyone just kind of like does all of this. And then I'm able to go upstairs, put on my old ass console and have a lot of fun with games. I think I've beaten 6 games in 2022, which is not. I'm about to beat another one. I had to pull myself away to come down and record the. I'm like this close to beating The Last of Us. Oh, Siri, nobody cares what you think. There we go. We'll leave that in the show.
How rude.
I thought
How
I'm not
rude.
even ever muted. My watch is muted, and she still flapped her gums.
Hollers at you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's it. I mean, obviously, I've not been able to get out too much, so I will leave it at that. And ask Kris, what have you been doing lately? As you tend to carry this section, you've actually probably played a game in 2.5, if that's
Only
what it.
because you delayed the recording to today. I got to play 2 games yesterday after work.
There you go.
It was exhausting. I finished at like 1:30 in the morning. We had 15 or 16 people out for our casual X-Wing night last night.
Exhausting because the game's so different, or exhausting because
Just
it was just a late night.
it was late. I'd worked, but then trying to play I was trying to do everything because I was chatting. Some people were like, "Oh, we're just going to play over new points, but play old like dogfighting." I was
Hmm.
like, I don't know that that's a good approach because I don't know that anything is balanced if you just do old dogfighting because like some lists you can make like 320 points in old money. Some
Uh-huh.
lists you can make are like 200 points in old money. So if all you're doing is playing the old game with the new points, I don't think it works.
It
Yeah,
may not
because
be
Yeah.
it may not be balanced anymore.
Yeah,
yeah,
it
because
might not be the
spoiler
correct
alert.
experience.
Yeah, spoiler alert. In case you haven't read the scenarios yet, unlike what we thought we knew, dogfighting is not a part of X-wing competitively
Oh,
or officially
Well,
anymore.
we'll get there. All right, so
yeah, yeah.
um we played um so I played in a rebel list. It's one of the things we're going to talk about in the main segment, so I'm not going to spoil the list and go into the intricacies of it or anything like that. But I
Right.
played the rebel list I'm going to talk about because I don't think either of you will have done rebels for your homework. So
I
No,
did. I
oh
did.
no, I guessed wrong. I thought Sean would be scum and scum, but
mm-mm.
No,
And
nope.
I went Imperial and Imperial with two different
yeah.
ideas behind it.
Well, I've made a bunch, so it's fine. I can talk about different ones. Um, but the first scenario we played was chance encounter or chance engagement, whatever it's called. I mean, I have it open here. I can just
I
look.
was just gonna say, let's pull it open.
Um,
I would, but I have a
chance
cat on
engagement.
my lap.
And
Oh, okay,
that's
you got this
basically
one.
basically dogfighting, but there's an objective in the center.
Mm-hmm.
And we were chatting about it beforehand, and I was like, I do not know how you can ever score this objective in the early rounds. 'Cause,
Yep.
yeah, you can like choose to not engage, but range 2 around the center is such a big bubble
Yep.
that
Yep.
I 3 banked my Sheathapede to touch the corner of it just so that he could be my no matter what my opponent did, he couldn't claim it. And I wasn't committing. I was just like my Sheathapede was blocking in the first turn. You know, it wasn't exactly needing an interceptor to get there or anything. Um, but the game ended. Um, we played the full 12 rounds, and that's the other thing. So because we were playing the full rounds, not with a time limit anymore, and
Yeah,
yeah,
interesting on
it
that one.
just trying to think about everything, and yeah, it was it felt like a long game, and I made sure that I stuck in the center. It was against a a black one Poe trigger happy flyboy, Ray with everything because you just do now. Like
Yep, because there's no detriment
yeah,
to doing it now.
Nope.
Ray with Finn and Rose and just all of it, and then a Temin Wexley. And just I had 5 ships, he had 3, and I just trying to push damage through was so difficult because obviously all the upgrades and everything, and I was like, it should be easy. But then I managed to advance proton Temin in the face. That took care of him. But I got
That
Paul down
tends to
to
be an issue. Yes.
yeah. Basically, summer. I don't want to go like to round by round, but the reason I managed to win was because the turn that Ray got to a point where she had too much stress and had to disengage and like stop swooping was the turn after I reduced Paul to one hit point left. So Paul disengaged as well, which then meant I scored the center because I just hung in the middle
Ooh.
and then I blocked Ray turning in one turn, which gave me an extra turn racking up the points. The racking up with at
The
1 point
point.
extra. Yeah. Um, but the game ended with Paul coming in and Ray coming in because they had to stop me scoring the objective, and he then needed a kill. No, I still need a kill. I think it was really close, but we both had to. He had to turn in to stop me scoring because if that happened and no one died, I would win. but then he killed Sabine, I think, but I killed Hull. Then he couldn't kill Fen. I'm pretty sure that was it was a really weird interchange, but I ended up, it was like 17 to 19, and I'd scored 3 rounds of objectives. So if I hadn't scored the center for 3 turns, I would have lost by 1. But because I did, I won by 2. So,
interesting.
good.
There you go.
Yeah, and it was all about killing and everything. And the second game I played was the salvage mission, was it, where you carry the crates around?
Salvage mission, correct.
Yeah. And that was, I played the same squad again because I couldn't be bothered packing it away and getting something else out. But I played against a resistance squad with 4 A-Wings and a Rose. And I was really tired. Clay played really well, and I chased the wrong target for the entire game. It's the Initiative 5 A-Wing that when she attacks, after she attacks or defends, she can spend a charge to get either a focus or an evade. So she's pretty much always double modded.
Yep.
And I finished the game. Fenro didn't fire his advanced proton. Sabine didn't fire advanced proton because I could never catch this A-Wing. And I'm like, he had an Initiative 1 A-Wing which was pulling a crate around the entire game. He had an Initiative 3 A-Wing that was pulling a crate around the entire game, and I kept chasing this Initiative 5 one. And I knew I was doing the wrong thing, but I'm like, I'm that deep, I'm that committed to it now.
I was just gonna say, I'm that committed. I'm gonna kill this damn A-Wing.
And it was interesting. But it was a fun game. I lost that one. I think it was like 22 to like 15 or 13. It was a pretty big gap at the end, and he pushed through the 20. But yeah, it was really interesting because I was scoring my points through killing stuff, but I couldn't get the objectives off him because he's an A-Wing. Like, if I don't get him if I don't get him the turn he picks them up, it's really hard to get him at all because resistance A-Wings have got the 3 bank, which is blue, and the 5 straight, so you just can't catch them to do the damage if you don't catch them on that first turn. So yeah, that was interesting. It's hard to say if it was any better or worse than like a dogfight, because I don't think you play that list in that way in a dogfight.
No,
in old X-Wing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
And I definitely think that the not being able to do advanced maneuvers hurt because I couldn't turn anything around properly. Yeah, I played, the list that I made was designed to play chance engagement, and I couldn't make it up with skill in this scenario on my first attempt. So I've got
it's your first attempt, and you've got some practice with it now, though. You've seen what it's like.
Well, it's not even. It's ironically, I did make a list designed for this scenario. Like my Republic list, I think is going to be really good in this scenario because it's a bunch of Jedi who, even the turn they pick it up, have still got the Force to keep them alive. And then I've got like Shak Ti with an auto blaster and a crit droid, so I can always plink a crit onto someone who's running away, and they can't block it, so they automatically drop the crate.
Yep.
So there's a bunch of like cheesy stuff like that I've got in the list, and I'm like, yeah, if I'd have just packed that list away and played this one, I probably would have won. But I didn't, and it's fine. You know what I mean? It wasn't a competitive event or anything like that.
As I say, if you think about how it would work in a competitive event, you don't get to switch lists in between.
Yeah, and that's what it's really. This is where we'll get to in the main topic, but it's really interesting. So I was like, yeah, this list but isn't great for this scenario. But if I'd have played it differently, I probably could have still won because I could have just bullied the lower initiative ships and killed enough of them that he was screwed and couldn't catch. You know what I mean? But because
Right.
I let him hold like 3-2 on crate. Oh, and I landed on. Yeah, I killed my own Lieutenant Blount.
Ooh.
Blount picked up a crate, and it was fine. So it's true point. This is going to be his number one target. He's going to be easy to kill because it's just a Z95, and he can't K-turn anymore. He can't do anything fancy. But I could. Did I cheat? Maybe I cheated as well. Yeah, I think I cheated now that I'm going through because you can't coordinate to a ship. Yeah, so I did cheat as well. Good.
Aw, cheater.
But it's fine. It's even more fine because I thought that I coordinated a barrel roll to him so I could try and turn around to escape the A-wing. But he had one hit left and I landed him on an asteroid, which also kills him because it's auto damage now.
Yep.
So yeah, it was fine. It was fine. Yeah, but that was really because we both had a ship that could coordinate in this scenario, and you can't coordinate to a ship that's carrying the cargo. So it was trying to, like I said, it's tired, lots of rules, lots of changes. So there's going to be lots of mistakes.
Oh yeah.
But,
I mean, it's almost like learning the game from scratch again.
yeah,
Legitimately.
But I'm glad we did struggle, and it was a struggle at times of trying to figure it all out. And the game's difficult. Like the amount of time I was there, normally I would have got like 3 to 4 games in. I only got 2, but I think it was worth that slowdown to start just brute force learning the game again. Oh.
No, I don't think that's what you're going to be down to. Honestly, especially was at how different it is. It's going to take some practice.
Yeah. But it was really good. I enjoyed it. I'll talk about the list later, but there's some fun stuff in the list. Definitely some improvements I'd make. I don't really know that it would remain the same. But I've been trying to do like a video series going through. I've just published the Empire one while you guys were doing your flight deck, and I was just like nodding along. Yeah, whatever. Not even listening. I'm just doing some work in the background. Just whatever.
He's always doing
You
that
both
producing
bore me.
work. Always.
God. It's not really. You just bored me to death. I'm right done.
Oh, good. Good. I'm glad to hear it.
40K again. Jesus. Oh. No. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
that was good. So I've done the Rebel search for value and the Imperial looking for value videos. I've got Scum, First Order, Resistance, Jedi, Grand Army of the Republic, and Separatist still to do.
So shout out to the, of course, Dice 8 Productions YouTube channel. Link in the description down below if you're watching it. Or you should be watching it on that channel right now.
Yeah, you can watch this VOD on there as well. I normally link these VODs in the podcast now because I'm slowly. I was talking to Sean about this before we started. Actually, I think this is where you jumped in, Ed. But I'm like, I hate it so much. I love making content. I hate trying to sell myself and promote the content.
Yeah.
I just feel so fake, and I hate it.
Yeah. I know that feeling. I genuinely do.
Like everyone who likes it, you guys go and share it. You show other people the stuff. I don't want to be like, yeah, come and look at me talking because I'm so great. Yay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And that's how you have to quote unquote catch on, is someone has to see you and then they're sharing it, and you're like that's how it reminds me of what it was like in the old days of YouTube. In the old days of YouTube, you didn't have, I mean, there was some algorithm in the background that promoted like what videos would be suggested to you, but it wasn't nearly as advanced as it is now. And of course, those YouTubers that have figured out the algorithm, figured out how to do their thumbnails in the correct way to get the most, influence over that one, get the correct time, how to open the intros, what target market you're trying to hit it. Like there is a science, there is a legitimate science to understanding the YouTube algorithms. And I'm just not, I'm not that into, I don't need to make a career out of it. So it's not that interesting to me at all.
I mean, I was saying to Sean, like, they're doing fine for my videos, for my content. for the first time in a long time, I've turned around the subscriber count because I was at around 2,500 subscribers. I dropped
Oh,
below
good.
1,500 for the first time in a while, and the decline has stopped and it started going up again. So, like, comment, subscribe.
Absolutely. All
But
right, so we've
yeah.
alluded to it enough. I hope is there anything else you want to fill in before?
No, we're half an hour in and we've not really touched on New X-Wing too much, so we should probably
All
start.
right. So, in case you've been living under a rock, I assume this is not the first time that you're hearing this, of course, but there are new X-Wing rules that are going to be coming into effect as of March 1st, 2022. Not officially rules 2.5 or 3.0, but really probably should be, if you want my honest opinion. So we're not going to go over every little detail as far as individual point changes, things like that. We do want to kind of touch on exactly how points work now, because the 200 point system is now a thing of the past. It is simply a 20 point system. But you also get loadout points per ship. And I'm really surprised the number of people that are that are getting this wrong, because I didn't think that it was that difficult to understand whenever you looked at, let's say, Howlrunner, for example. Howlrunner is 4 points and she gets 6 points for loadout. Some people are taking all of the ship points and getting to 20 and then totaling up all of their loadout points and just spending them willy-nilly however they want. And it doesn't really work that way. Each individual ship has their own loadout point. So let's get that one out of the way. So like it's really difficult like there's no even real comparison really to what the old points were to the new points. It was interesting because I did do a little experiment to go back and look at some of the ships. What was this ship's cost before in 2.0 and what it is in 2.5, and they do kind of come out to like a 10%. Like a 41 ship is now a 4-point ship, but a 48-point ship is kind of a 5-point ship. It did kind of work out that way, but how they calculated the loadout, I have no idea. That one I can't quite figure out. And what's interesting, because it's not just the loadout for the upgrades, each individual ship gets their own individual upgrade bar as well. So a lot of double they're not elite slots anymore. They're
Talents.
talents. Thank you. I was drawing a blank. I don't know what. So like some ships were like, a lot of the ships in like the squads that I have now have 2 talent slots. Some of them have multiple modification slots where they didn't have them before. So it's really been kind of interesting. Like so, as when Kris alluded to the fact like this is really a gigantic change from 2.0 to 2.5. It really is. There's a lot to kind of intake here in individual ships, but building the lists I don't think is that hard once you get the you get your head around it. There is an easy button, and I would like to mention this right now. If you go to Gatsby.app, the folks over at Yet Another Squad Builder already have a squad builder that is equipped with this one. I don't say this often. This is not sponsored. Nobody asked me to do this, but I would suggest, with all the work that was put in, since we know that AMG is not going to be putting out a squad builder, this is the only one that you have to kind of go off of.
There's like app-based ones. There's like Launch Bay Next. There are options, but this is the one.
This is the
web-based one we all use. So yeah,
right. My point being is, whichever app that you are using, they all have a donate button. Kick over a few bucks to those folks for putting in all the hard work to getting this out there to you. I did it myself. I highly recommend everyone do it because there is a lot of work here that went in for an application that is absolutely free to use. So there, I'm off my soapbox on that one. Anything else you feel like I should touch on as far as the points, since we're not going to be going over individual ship points, because that would be a long show. It'd be a really long show.
yeah. I did a summary video, which is like an hour long. I can link that in, and I do plan on putting it on the audio version on the Patreon and the what's it called? The Dice Hate podcast from SoundCloud. So if you are subscribed to the the Podbean version that is just lack of focus, you won't get the notification about it, sorry. But it will be on the lack of focus Patreon page, free as like just extra content for you to consume from there. So
One final note on that, on the ships and the points, they are now broken down, of course, into standard and extended. And of course, there are some that are going to just kind of flat out be banned. Now, they are banned for a reason, which we'll get to here shortly. Either they broke the golden rule of looking at dials before they happen, or there are other reasons why those things are banned. So, and then the other thing I wanted to touch on real quick, upgrade points are still kind of the way they were before. There are some changes, but as far as the points cost for the upgrades, they seem to function the way that they used to. All right,
yeah.
that's points. Woo! Done. All done on points. So let's get into some of the fun stuff. Where would you like to start? Would you like to start with scenarios, or would you like to start with other stuff?
I think just like stressing the bump rules, I think, is a good place. I do have some anecdotes from my 2 games experience now. That's like
Mm-hmm.
24 rounds of X-Wing we played.
More than some have gotten before they made judgment calls, I'll
Yeah.
say that.
So for people who have been saying like Swarm plays dead and stuff like that, I was thinking about it and chatting about it the other day, and one of the things I said is that I do think that I would still take the risk for like a friendly bump given the correct circumstances. And
Yeah.
in the game I played against Resistance, I had Blind again on 1 hit point left, and I deliberately collided him into the back of Sabine, risking just killing him, because if I didn't kill him, I blocked one of the swoop options for Ray, and it was like to trap her where I needed her to be to start doing damage to her. And he didn't die, and it all worked, and it was fine. But like, yeah, I've before it wouldn't have even been any choice. You just do it because there's 0 consequences. And now it actually being a choice and a risk felt good. Like, maybe it felt good because it worked. But like, I was talking about it as the game was, as I was doing the maneuver, I was like, this could be really bad. But like, one, if I do it and die and guess right, I think that's worse. You know, like if I do it, die, and guess wrong, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh well, it wouldn't have mattered any. I don't know which one of those 2 is worse, but you know, like it, but yeah, basically the rules for collision for overlaps now. If you overlap a friendly ship, you roll a dice and you have a 50-50 chance of taking a damage. If you bump into an enemy ship, you can do a red focus or a red calculate action, depending on what's on your action bar, and then you skip your perform action step. So, and there's like caveats in there that you can't perform any other actions, all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, it was really interesting.
I mean, it's
Bumps
the most
didn't
important
really.
part about bumping. You can now shoot at range 0.
Well, that's an attack rule then.
Oh, okay. Fine, fine, fine.
But yeah, so that's in the attack range section. They did add in about the range 0 attacks. I'm not going to go into it, but it was because they left the part in that was to stop you from shooting when the attack range was range 1. So like if you were Major Rhymer, for example, you could fire and in fact the Major Rhymer is where the argument came from, but basically if someone bumped into the side of you, so when you measured the attack range out of arc, it was range 1, not range 0. You used to not be able to attack because it because it was a range 1, you were still at range 0.
Yeah.
But because that sentence says that you can't attack when that happens unless you have an ability, then people were not doing it. So now people are trying to say that because that's still in there, even though 2 lines above it, it gives all ships the ability to shoot at range 0. They're trying to say you can't shoot at range 0. And it's, yeah, I'm just like, okay, whatever. Thanks for making me wish that I'd never done the rules question group, folks. It was a fun day today.
Oh God.
It's called Live and Learn, Kris. Live and learn.
Or
But
careful what you wish for.
Rules groups, I think, are the worst groups ever. And
generally,
I know it from experience because you basically took it over from me.
well, this was a group that I made to try and free up pressure from the group that you made. And it's because people were getting a bunch of it was just filled with rules questions all the time, not actual event organizing questions.
Right.
And then the TO group's been like dead, just no one would post anything in it for years. So I don't know if they just all made a different group and didn't invite me. It's fine, whatever. I've got enough friends.
It may
Yeah.
have something to do with there haven't really been a ton of official events.
Oh, this is from well predating
is-
all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, this is from the group that I ran that basically
It
when
was
I
a hidden
stepped
group.
away,
Yeah,
it was a hidden group, but it started getting people in it that we didn't need in it, and it just got bad.
Yeah, anyone who had a rules question was getting like the local TO to invite to a group so he could ask a rules question. And, like
Right.
the entire group was just ended up being about rules questions instead of like
Yeah. TO and events.
I'm running a 60-person event. I've never run an event this big. Anyone got any tips, kind of thing.
Right.
And I
Like
was
what it
like,
was supposed to be.
yeah. And like talking about rulings between TOs is different to people who've got an agenda because they want the combination to work talking about it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
You know what
Anyway, we don't need to drag this
it's
down
fine.
with that. But
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was my life for a little bit today. And I go through phases. I absentee parent a group quite a lot now because people are generally pretty good. I don't need to like moderate the group anymore. But obviously, in the last week, there's been a bunch of changes. So I just try and make sure I'm responding quick enough with the screen grabs of the actual rules reference guide, try and keep it flowing. But sometimes you get dragged down. So whatever. Yeah, I forgot what we're talking about. But yeah, so that was attacking at range 0 is a thing now. You roll your basic your printed attack value, and you can't modify your offensive dice unless you have force, and then only for default effect. So we had a couple of opportunities for range 0 shots, but never took them because there was always a better shot to take. That was in both of my games. I don't think there was a range 0 shot in 2 games.
I was kind of curious to see if that had happened yet or not, to see if it actually came into play.
Like, you had other stuff in your attack arc, so why would you take the shot that you can't modify? You know what I mean? Like,
good question.
You're not doing it. You're not bumping on purpose to try to get a shot, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Then scenarios are huge. I think that's going to be a show of its own kind of thing. I probably need to actually do one scenario per show kind of thing.
I'm down for that. I think that'd be fine.
And actually, if we do it, we need to plan.
Yes.
I definitely think we need to actually get games in to talk about the scenarios because they are very nuanced.
Yep.
One good thing I did see, if I remember, I'll dig it up, but there was I saw it in the UK and Ireland Facebook group. Someone had done a map with the actual zones where you can place the objectives because the wording's a little bit FFG style, which is to say there's words there, a lot of them. Because there's always one in the middle, and Ryan Farmer did like an overlay. So if you're getting a map printed, you can place this over the top of your image, and it'll print the center token on it. It's just like a grey shadow space, so you know where to put it. Which was really cool.
I like that idea.
Yeah, so if anyone's getting a map printed, make sure you check that out. That's on the Fly Better group. and kudos to Ryan. He did a bunch of stuff where he just like giving out free content to like the community the last week or so. But then from that, you place the next objective gets placed within range 3 of it. Not within, at range 3 of it. So that's different to within range 3.
It
And it
is.
has to be at between ranges 2 to 4 of either your table edge or the enemy table edge, and it's stated as you're doing it. So it gives you a donut, but then there's like a cutout of it because you can't go beyond range 4. So there's like a hollow section and the donut, and it's pretty interesting to look at. But basically, every game I've seen has had some form of cross, but like some of them are shallower than others. You can do, I think there's scope to do some funky stuff. The
How
interesting
are
thing, go on.
Oh, go ahead. I was gonna say, how are your groups handling the half range?
I can only speak for setting up my game, and I didn't have the correct token. I was using the new Blaze Bomb token, and we was like, if this is the wrong size, whatever, it's the wrong size for both of us, it's fine.
Mhm.
And we just eyeballed it from range 5 rule, between range 4 and range 5. So I put my range 3 ruler and my range 2 ruler together and tried to make the center of the token be roughly lined up with the center of the last range band. So,
I'd love to know what the line of thinking was on that. Like, that's the one thing that jumped out to me that I was like, now that's interesting. Range 1's too short or too close.
it's
Range
just
2's
because
too
of the
far
size of the
away.
map.
Yeah, and I
It's
get
like the maps are made in a measure, like a unit of measurement that isn't range bands.
yeah, and I get
Like,
that. I understand that. It was just
so
a weird decision that, like, 1.5.
like, were I designing X-Wing from the ground up, I would have made it range 5 and just made the map bigger by
Yeah,
half a range
yeah,
band each around the edge. Because then it wouldn't
that
be
is
range. Because then if the center of the table is range 4.5 from each end, then that's where the center of the table. You have no control over that.
yeah. That's the one thing when I was talking with a couple of folks from our local game group. That's the one thing they're like, "Well, what the hell is range 1.5?" Like,
They
go to
give
the
you
back of the scenario thing. They give you tokens to print out. That's what range 1.5
So
is.
one thing that
Yep.
a bunch of people said was that they preferred printing the sheet on some like not just flimsy like copy paper, but some like heavier stock paper and just leaving it at that. Or maybe the thin stuff on laminating it because
I
the
was gonna say,
profile
or
is
you let.
lower.
That's what I did. I,
Yeah,
I I printed them at work and then laminated them, but I got the
yeah,
hard laminate, so it's like
yeah.
almost like a hard
But
plastic.
and you just get some double-sided tape because then you can overlap them because if they found that there was a bunch of overlaps when you were playing those 5 token scenarios. Because you're focused
Mm,
on them, your ships are closer to them. It's not like when you're trying to stay away from the asteroids. You're actively trying to
Right.
get close to these tokens. So having
correct.
that lower profile was actually a benefit, which
Good
was
point. Good
really,
point.
really interesting, especially because I went to Curlpaw Creatives and ordered their scenario pack thing, which is all of the new tokens with a 12 round Death Star style turn counter. When it's coming
Nice.
around Yavin and you see the
Where did you order that from?
Curlpaw Creatives on Etsy. I've ordered, they're the people I ordered my streaming tokens from. So the big chunky
Gotcha.
tokens if I'm ever streaming live X-Wing. But I'll shoot a link now. I think I can probably
I
do that.
remember those big ass
Yeah,
tokens.
Yeah. But they've got a scenario pack available.
that was quick.
Yeah, it
Squadron
was.
Squadron Scenario Acrylic Battle Pack X-Wing compatible. I'll
Yeah,
link
shoot that through
this.
and
Yeah, I'm throwing it up in X-Wing Talk right now,
okay.
along with the link to my Imperial video.
Ooh.
But yeah, it's it's Andrew Knuckles. You can use code Jabba for a 10% discount
There
because
you go.
they sent me
Job.
the I got the coupon code Jabba the day after I ordered it as well. Gutted. So if anyone's listening and that code doesn't work, I have no idea if it's a one-time use thing, but 10% off code Jabba. We'll see what happens and how much Andrew hates me for costing him 10%. I paid the full price, Andrew. It's fine.
The full price.
But yeah, if you have a look at that Battle of Yavin Rain counter, that looks really cool. I really like it.
I like the range rulers. Those are cool.
Yeah, I went for just the range 1.5 ruler because it's got a
1.5.
range 4.5 ruler where it's magnetized, so it's a normal range 3,
Yeah.
and then there's a range 2 with the extra, so it's a range 2.5 ruler, but they magnetize together, so you have a range.
So it's a
4.5.
1.5. Yeah.
Yeah. But I just went for a 1.5 on its own. I didn't need the big one. But yeah, that's cool.
The turn marker's badass.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a fan. Oh, obviously I paid my own money for it. No sponsorships for this show, unfortunately.
I'm gonna
I will
bookmark
shill
this.
for any of you.
You filthy
And I'll
whore.
drag these two down with me. It's fine.
Filthy whore.
Yeah. I'm proud of it,
You are, as well you should be. As well you should be. No, those are pretty sharp. Okay, so
yeah.
that
I mean, we're just rambling about stuff. I think I've lost the train of thought like 3 times since we started.
That's okay. So the only thing that this says to me, that I did want to on the scenario ones, because they have quote unquote paper tokens that you can print out. This to me indicates, I would hope, that at some point in time, new starter sets are going to come out because they're going to have to. If you were to buy the starter set right now, the rules in the starter set do not match the rules of the game. So it's almost inevitable that there will be announcing a new starter set. So since the guys over at AMG are using our podcast and taking everything we say and say, hey, that's a great idea, and printing it, as we have proven in the past, standard is now a thing, scenarios are now a thing. I take full credit. We take full credit for this. AMG, listen to me. Produce more than one starter set. Produce one that's Imperial versus Rebel. Produce one that's First Order versus Resistance. Scum and whom.
Do you want to
whichever.
know what I think they will actually do, or what I think they should do?
I'm all ears.
Like, I don't think anything like this will happen until 2024 or whenever the license is up for renewal. Because obviously,
Really?
I can't remember when it is, but I know that it's not too far in the future. So if I was AMG, I would not develop a new car set because like I can't get it released before like it would be in development, and then they might just pull a license, and then I can't release it. So
Ooh,
all
right. So that's a depressing thought. I hadn't thought about that.
I know, and that's not what I want to focus on. But what I would do is I would do the squadron boxes would become my starter sets, and I would have like a 10-book like token set. So it has your generic damage deck, your dice. So you get like no ships.
Do you think that they need a new printed rulebook that includes the scenarios in it, though? I mean, because again,
no, but that's what you can put that in this pack.
Okay, as long as we're on the same page.
Yeah, but I wouldn't have, because I don't think you want to do multi-faction starter sets anymore. Like I was looking, so I mean, this is just a random one. I've still not managed to open it yet. I've had it sat on my desk for a week, but the new way Malifaux does starter sets is you get a faction starter box which comes with a faction deck, scheme markers that the game needs, and a measuring tool, and 4 pre-assembled models.
That's another way to go.
So you just buy your faction thing and it has your faction stuff in it,
I
and
know
then
the one
you
thing that
can
I
play the
love the
game.
way, and maybe this is just old fashioned, FFG Ed who love the way that they did the starter sets. So one thing that I loved about that is it could sit on a shelf. You could pull it off a shelf. And you have everything to play for two players. Now, do I agree that you're right? I could just as
Did
easily have
did you
two
though? Did you have everything you need for 2 players?
for a small game. Sure.
How
One,
many
one.
damage decks did you need?
Oh, fair point. All
Like
right, that's
you have
fair.
everything you need to get a taste for what the game might be, almost.
All right, that's fair. That's fair.
And again, I don't think there's anything wrong with what FFG did. I just think that
No,
if you want it to be a miniatures game, that you can't do it like that anymore.
no,
So,
and I agree. So while I was more inclined to say do the dual ones, I'm now leaning more as often is the case. I have an idea, and Kris shows me the light and says, "No, you're wrong," and let me show you why. You're right. Faction specific ones would probably be better because if you just had three ships that came, 3 or 4 ships, whatever whatever it
yeah,
came out to be
if you think
per
about it,
faction,
like, uh, yeah, I would probably not use the current squadron boxes. I would use it as an excuse to do more squadron boxes, though. And I
right?
would package the damage deck and the range rulers and everything together and
Hmm.
do it as like the same price or maybe even slightly more expensive because you get one person's going to use everything now.
Correct.
But that's what I would do.
Yep. No, I'm on board. I agree. All right, so since
Um,
we're going to cover over scenarios individually, let's just say that we know that they're a little bit different, and we're going to go over those as we sit down and play them. Do you want to talk about the band list
um,
and
so
other
one thing I do
critical
want to
cards at
touch
all?
on, the only thing I want to say about the ban list, sorry, Sean, is that this is for standard play, apart from, and Matt, you'll like Kris because he was mocking me all night last night after I pointed out his mistake. But the Delta 7B upgrade card is banned from all types of play because it is its own ship now. So I
Right.
don't think they should have put Delta 7B on the upgrade card. I think there should have been a separate, sorry, on the ban list. I think there should have been a separate entry for it. So I think there's potential for confusion there in that if you're playing extended, everything else you can just use whatever, do what you want. But with Delta 7B, you can't because there's some weird interactions where because of the variable upgrades, the standard Delta 7 Aether sprites that could take the Delta 7B config previously, if you're playing extended, still can't because it doesn't exist. The card just anyone who's got a Delta 7B config and doesn't understand how this works, just hurry it up, print out the new cards from the errata document because there are Delta 7B ship cards now. It's its own ship. It is not an upgrade to the Delta 7.
And if you intend to tear those up, please by all means film those and maybe even burn them and then post
You
those on
no,
YouTube so we can.
don't burn them because what'll happen is what happened to Ryan Farmer when he jokingly burned one of his like 27 copies of Sense because Sense is on the ban list. So before the rules came out, Sense was confirmed on stream as being banned. So jokingly, Farmer set fire to one, and then someone took the picture he'd done, put it into black and white Schindler's List style, and was like, "Yeah, the Nazis burned stuff too." I'm like,
I was
"Okay,
I was
okay,
thinking more along
cool."
the lines whenever people went from first edition to second edition,
No,
you saw the people that were burning all their
no,
cardboard.
but I'm sure that's the way that Ryan meant it as well. But
Mhm.
don't put it past people with a different agenda to you to
Yeah,
take what
yeah.
just the world we live in isn't always a nice place. Context no longer matters. Thanks, America, for that, by the way.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I love America. Genuinely, I love America because I had to apply for my ETSA. I've got it here. I got approved. I've got 2 more years of being allowed in the country. I'll make sure I hold it over here so it's not in focus, you know?
Yeah, and so nobody can see any important, you're not doxing yourself while you're at it.
Oh, I mean, all I believe if you like Google Dice Hit Productions, my address is on there anyway. Whatever, send all explosives somewhere else, please.
Please. So I did want to touch on I thought this was the right solution. If they were going to quote unquote errata or changed the way cards functioned in the game, as opposed to having some document, a PDF file that you had to go through and reread all of them, they just went through and printed all new cards for not only pilots, upgrades, everything. And legitimately it says right on the paper. These printouts are intended as replacements for eroded components and are legal for tournament play.
My question to that, because we did hear, they couldn't do when another company was producing this game, we kept hearing we can't do that. We can't errata cards. And
Yeah.
that's why second edition came into being, which now to me makes me feel,
I
maybe.
was gonna bring this up, Sean. Actually, you're kind of touching on a point because I wanted to talk about the Nantex. All of the Nantex have been errated to include the word fully. So to do all of the Nantex tractor beam shenanigans, they have to fully execute their maneuver now. And that was one of the changes at FFG. Like, it still works as intended, so we can't change it. Well, looks
But you
like
can't.
AMG did something better than you then, doesn't it?
And
I mean,
that's the thing. That's the
I'm
thing.
not.
I mean,
I have beliefs on this, but I'm not gonna air them because I don't think it's in good taste. But yeah,
No need to ruffle feathers
no,
or
no, it's not
when
even that. It's just like I can't say that I'm wrong. It's all supposition. So
right.
what's the
Okay.
point of saying it, if you know what I mean? But
Mhm.
but just the fact that it has changed, I don't know. Like, shoot, even the most ardent AMG hater has to concede that point that Nantex being errated is a good thing,
mhm,
and it's something that never would have happened under FFG. So
right.
Because they flat out said they couldn't.
yeah.
Anyway,
Well,
oh, go ahead.
what I do want to add onto that, it's I just think it's the quickest and easiest way to make the game work better. It's sticking it in an errata sheet that you have to have with you at every tournament. It's like, yeah, just give me a PDF of the right way to do it, so it's on my card, so it's at the table, it's on the table, it's easy for me to figure out instead of this. y- You know, it's frustrating when I see this now, and for the 5 years of BS that we got with
Uh-huh.
the answers, we can't do that. Well, obviously you could.
I
It's
mean,
just
what I will say, Sean, is because like none of us know for sure, and we probably
I get
never
that.
will. But what I
I get
would
that.
what I would add is that maybe this is they had one, they had the one chance to hit as many things as they could with carte blanche because they got to go to Disney. Oh well, we're we're trying something different with the game, so we want to make all of these changes. After that, it should settle down. So maybe AMG might become locked in the same way FFG were. And
I
I
mean,
hope not. Don't get me wrong. You know what I mean? I hope that I'm wrong and that statement is just false. But
Yeah, but
I
my whole thing.
giving them a benefit of a doubt, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I get that. But really and truthfully, when you look at the reality of it, and that's more what I'm talking about here, is when I look at this and I say, okay, so you told me you couldn't, great. But at the same time, it's like all it is, and I think part of it, Chris, and was the golden whatever process that they used, that once it was done, it was done. You couldn't do anything else with it. And to me, it's like, yeah, but in reality, you can't always change it. You just send it through with the next set of ships you're sending through for Lucasfilm to approve. All you're doing is changing the way a card reads. It's not like you're changing the whole game.
Hmm.
That's where I'm coming from. It's you have a process that every X amount of months you're sending cards for approval to Lucasfilm, which is what they were doing, and that was that golden process, whatever they called it. why couldn't they have just sent the erratas at the same time and said, hey, let's make these changes. These changes will better the game, will make people enjoy it more. We'll take away negative play experiences, whatever words you want to use, instead of the sticking it on a piece of paper that you now have to carry, and you have to, look at how much ADD is in this country to begin this, or ADHD is
Right,
in this
exactly.
country. It's really hard to go from one to the other and understand it. Just truly it is. And to stick with it, and to have that stick to itive on that card. Anyway, I'm off my soapbox on that, but that's the frustrations that I have when I look at old to new and the good things that this company is trying to do. That's my whole point in this, is that they're actually trying to make it easier for the players.
They are.
Oh
I
my
know,
god. Oh my
and that's
gosh.
I wanted to give them credit for that. I genuinely did.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
All right, so we've kind of touched on points and how it builds squads. We've touched on scenarios, but we're going to get a little bit deeper. We've touched on the ban list. We've touched on that, and we've touched on some of the rules. Now, let's get to the meat of this one: building some lists. Kris gave us some homework, and I actually did my homework for once today. I actually did it a couple of days ago. I was prepared for Thursday's show before my wife said that she was coming back. So I am prepared for this one. So, Kris, I'm going to let you take on this one because I know you wanted to touch on a couple of points before we got into this.
I don't remember, but whatever. I'll figure it out.
You did. You said you did.
Yeah, so basically what we were going to talk about was like the going into list building and like how it all works, how we're looking at it, how we approach it. And I kind of asked, like, for Ed, I like challenged him once he said, "Oh, I've made these lists." It's like, okay, how did you do it? Did you count to 20? Did you pick something? Like, I really want to run Vader with this upgrade. What can I do with it now? So I think it's probably something to go into more after the fact, and we'll just all go blind through our lists first, um, rather than like too much of a preamble. But yeah, like, list building is completely different. Obviously, the biggest thing is you can no longer run a 2-ship list.
Yeah,
I
the
mean,
officially
maybe not
rules.
big, maybe 20 points instead of 200, and a bunch of free upgrades is bigger than that. Now that I think about what the words I just said, but like 3 to 8 ship lists, and yeah. So, who do you want to start? Ed, who's going to start us off? Want me to go? Do you want to go?
I'll go. Let me go. I'll go.
Yeah.
Let Sean go.
Yeah, I'll go because you thought I'd bring two scumless and I didn't. So
Throw
I'm going
that
to start up
monkey wrench in right at the start.
right at the start. So this list is kind of I'm going to call it an amalgamation list, just because this is the type of list I like to play. Um, the the concept of my list for this one is basically to hopefully knock people off the board and get them off of objectives for the most part. This isn't really a take objective style list. This is more of a let's try to keep them off the objectives if possible, and then try to score objectives. The one thing about objectives is it looks like you're scoring one game point, one point for one mission point. That's what they call it, for capping an objective. So in a sense, it's probably a good thing to try to keep them off objectives, because if they cap the objective, it makes it harder for you to do the same thing. So anyway, um, here is my first list. This is a scum list. This one is built out, and it uses my second favorite scum ship overall, because both of my lists are also standard lists. Which did we talk about standard?
We've not
And
touched on standard and extended, but yeah, extended to me is pretty much confirmed to be dead now. Like, people
yeah,
are still holding it. Like, a couple of people last night in the local group were still playing extended. That's why, just so you know, like, I don't plan on running extended events at the minute. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's not
hmm
like the indications we're getting is that it's not like olden days of FFG, were like system opens were hyperspace and the world's track was extended. Everything from the sounds of it is standard now. So
Yep.
So have extended if it's gonna be a fun game, but
not even like to
Yeah.
me,
It's yeah.
like, but what should happen now is the value of like gunboats should just drop and plummet.
Yeah. Yep.
Like you shouldn't be able
Yep.
to get $100 for a gunboat anymore. It should be
Yeah.
cheaper than a normal ship because they're
So
useless.
so
But
where we'll
whatever.
know where we'll know this if this is a true statement or not is when they release the rules or whatever they're going to use for Adepticon. That's when we'll find out what the reality of it is for tournament play. Because if they say it's standard at Adepticon, I'm pretty sure it's going to be standard all the way across the board.
Um,
Just my guess, but I'm talking about for,
yeah. No.
the
I'm
the
fairly
whatever you
certain
want to.
it is standard. I thought they'd said that, but I might be wrong.
I don't remember reading it, but I
I've
could be
not really
wrong on
looked
that.
because I can't afford to go. And then they showed off all the prizes, and I'm really sad now.
Yeah. Till the community hit on, well, those are 2020 dice, because the picture they showed had the 2020 stamp on the dice and stuff, and it's
Whatever.
like whatever. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, let me get in this list. So, second favorite ship, it is standard legal. It is my second favorite scum ship, which is the Fire Spray. So we'll start with that ship. It's Boba Fett because if you're going to run a Fire Spray and it's scum, you're going to run Boba Fett because if you don't, I feel that you're losing out. So cost is 10, loadout is 22 total points. I also built spreadsheets for this. So
Ooh.
so I actually have spreadsheets that make sure that I stay on track with everything, and a lot of it's just copy paste straight from their spreadsheet into mine. And I'm looking at getting access on my home computer so that I can start building out a database so that I just can direct populate into spreadsheets from a database.
So
So
one thing, just as we're doing this, that I'm gonna try to do because I find it mildly interesting, and I saw our good friend Bob was asking about something similar to this in the Fly Better group. Might
Ooh.
have like got his love of X-Wing back, but
Oh, I hope so.
basically, Boba Fett from memory was 85 points with 22
somewhere
points
in
worth of upgrades, so that would have been 107, and he's now
yeah,
10. So
he was.
like
So right now I have he was 85. Yep.
yeah, so at 10.7 points, he's so you're getting a discount of like 7 points here for old money.
Yeah, and I'm
Oh,
really quickly. I didn't have Yazaba, but I'm building it out right
yeah, it's
now.
fine.
Um, so what I started with this was okay. So we'll start with the whatever they call it, talent
Yeah,
point or whatever it is. I chose composure, and I like composure because it is after you fail an action, if you have no green tokens, you may perform a focus action. If you do, you cannot perform additional actions this round. So if I'm trying to boost and I fail it, I can still get an action out of this because it is Boba Fett, and I really want to have something going on with Boba Fett. And then, of course, with Boba Fett is the HLC. So
Of course.
heavy laser cannon. The new one, because they added crew back onto Boba Fett, and this is one of the more expensive ones. This is the most expensive one that I have on my ship. I took 000.
triple
So
zero. Oh, yeah.
000. At the start of the engagement phase, you may choose one enemy ship at range 0 to 1. If you do, you gain one calculate token unless that ship chooses to gain one stress token.
Yeah.
So I'm using some tactics here. So if I'm getting, I'm going to try to force people to have to make a choice, and That's the concept there. The
So
next one,
I just gonna interject, because I don't know if Ed knows this or not, but that was one of Jeremy Chumbalia's cards that he designed. He did BT BT1, is it, or BT8? I can't remember what gunner droid is, and
yeah,
Triple
I know what you're
Zero
talking about.
I
were
did not know
those.
that.
So they were Jeremy's cards for winning the system open and stuff, or whatever the big, I can't remember, celebration was it? The
Yeah,
event they held there.
maybe Celebration. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
So the next one I took was the Slave One legal Slave One title
Hmm.
for 3, which is it adds the gunner. Is it what is that slot there? Is that the gunner slot that it adds? The dude with shooting like the
Yeah, it's a
Millennium
gunner.
Falcon. It's gunner.
Yeah.
So it adds a gunner slot, which I'm not utilizing, but it does add a gunner slot.
You could
It
do
says what?
BT1 and get a combo. Right.
Yeah. While you perform a forward or front arc attack, if you are in the defender's rear arc, you may change one hit to a crit result. So if I'm using my regular gun instead of the HLC, I'm still potentially getting a crit across. Next one is I chose Contraband Cybernetics, and it's before you activate. I may spend 1 energy. If I do, until the end of the round, you can perform actions and execute red maneuvers even while stressed. So for Boba Fett, I think that's a pretty important piece with it. I took the missile slot, cluster missiles, just because they're cluster missiles, and I like cluster missiles.
So do I.
Modification, I took munitions failsafe, just because if that was kind of my. I had a point left. I had a point left over, and that's what I did. And then payload is proton bomb because I love the crap out of proton bombs. So then that may change. As I go through it more, that may change. My second ship, because now you have to have 3 ships, but this is ship number 2. I took Krass's Trellix. And so Krass's Trellix is you can perform a front arm special attack from my rear arc. So, and then while you perform a special attack, you may re-roll 1 attack die. So my special attack will be HLC, I believe. Is that correct, Kris? That would be the special.
You can't do HLC out for rear, I don't believe, because I believe it's got a. Oh, sorry, let me.
It's Krass's Trellix, so
it's got a bullseye arc.
Yeah, so it has to be a front arc one, but you can give him the HLC, but that won't be able to shoot backwards.
Could the missile shoot backwards?
Yeah, as long as it is a front arc symbol. So from the cannons, you've got jamming beam, auto blaster, tractor beam, ion, or synced cannons. I mean,
okay.
Personally, I would go with synced cannons from that, or maybe ion because it's a point cheaper. But I mean, we're getting off topic now because I'm not trying to improve your list.
Correct. Yeah, and like I said, that'll change because of that deal there. Cluster missiles on this one. I took sorry, I just have to laugh because I just think this is kind of a stupid card, but I took the Gonk droid.
Gonk. Everyone's favorite now. He's in all of the shows.
Yep.
I saw like a modern Gonk droid on Boba Fett.
Yeah.
So, but with the Gonk droid, basically you spend an energy to recover 1 shield. So, and then payload, of course, proton bomb. And then my third ship in this list is Z95 Headhunter, and it's Nadru just because it's 2 points and Nadru's cool. So that's kind of going to be the worker bee around the edge or in the middle, depending upon what the situation goes.
Nadru is going to be in my scum video for like the value ships because it's one of the 2-point ships that I fought and can be a 3 attack dice if you just leave him on his own, like as a flanker. Like, I think there's a lot of value there.
I do too, especially with the change from, the way it was before to now.
Yeah.
My second list is a rebel list, which,
Ooh.
and there's a reason why this list
Well,
exists.
before you do a rebel one, Sean, let's go just do some questions on this one and try and go. We'll do the loop twice rather than once, if that makes sense.
Yep, that's good.
Yeah. So, did you do fire spray? Crap, I've got 2 points left and I don't want to give it up. What's a 2 point ship?
Yep,
Was
that's
that the way?
exactly how I did. That's
Yeah.
exactly how I did it.
Yeah.
It's and I did it in my rebel list too. I had 2 points left over, and basically
Yeah.
it's oh crap, I don't want to give up 2 points, so I'm gonna fill it with what I can,
Yeah.
which there aren't very many ships available at 2 points, but if
Yeah.
you have it, use it.
No, that's good. That was my
It's definitely a
first
use it or
question.
lose it kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, why would you give your opponent 2 points?
And then,
Agreed.
so I don't know. This is probably a good question for you, Sean, because of how I know you generally like to play. Did you consider just leaving some loadout value on the table just to
Not even for
have
a
left?
second.
Yeah.
Not
That was
even for a second, Chris.
because like one of the things for me that I've had a not a massive concern. It's not been a big deal, but like especially when I was looking at Republic. So I just don't care about spending it. This is what I want the ship to do, and I'm just not going to put any more cards for me to forget about on there. It doesn't matter. I don't care. So I've left. I think in my Republic list, I might have left Warder on the table, but it was just a
So, one of the things I try to do when I was looking at loadout is to make it so that loadout had value added.
yeah,
If there was something that really like munitions fail safe, I had 1 point left over, throw it on there, but it actually is functional in this list,
yeah.
because
It's got missiles, so yeah,
we're playing 12 rounds now, not time. So if I have a bad shot, I get it back basically. I'd rather
yeah.
fire four effective shots than lose a shot just because of either dice or whatever the condition is that
No,
causes that to happen.
I had my first advanced proton torpedo shot in 2.5. Was obviously a 5 dice attack, target lock focused. I rolled 2 hits and 3 blanks, re-rolled the blanks into 3 more blanks. And I was like, oh, okay. Sad.
Yeah, yeah, and if you can at that point, you would pull it back if you could,
Yeah,
because you don't want to
because
waste the shot.
like he just evaded it. Like he's got to evade dice and had tokens. I needed to push damage through. If I'd have had munitions fail safe, I would have spent it.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And for Krasik's, I'm changing to auto blaster cannon.
Yeah, auto blast is good.
Yeah, I like it. Um, any other questions?
No, that was it on that list. It was just a couple of like just how we are kind of thinking of it, and if we
Yeah,
all came at it the same way, or and that kind of thing. I
it,
don't.
and I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it as if it's not out value added, I probably would have left points on the table. But everything, like what I try to choose with Gonk Droid, it's kind of an interesting one to put on. But if I can get a shield back, whether yeah, you're going to give up the half points at some point, but if I can get a shield back and keep my ship on the table an extra turn, why not have that
Yeah,
available? Proton bombs. I just I like proton
yeah,
bombs. Composure, I really think is going to be important. And it's one of those things that people may not see in the beginning, but because it's now a game of you're literally playing a game. In my opinion, you're playing a game of positioning
Yes.
more
Agreed.
than more than jousting or having the dogfight be
I
the most
I think
important piece.
composure is pretty good on a medium base when you're still getting used to it because it does fly very differently. I
It is
still
different.
struggle sometimes to figure out how it's going to move and where it's going to go. So I can see composure on that. Like,
Right.
and if you're not like, I suppose if I had a point left, I would put composure on. I think the problem for me from that would be if I'm doing that with too many things. Like, okay, I've got a point left, so I'll put um, munitions failsafe here, and I'll put composure there. How much of that is going to be beneficial, and like, especially because you have to remember the triggers for it.
But
Um,
let me ask you this though. So in the old, in the old version, when that point was part of your total ship point cost, that's where I see that being the most valid thought
oh no,
process with
yeah,
this. But because you have a loadout value that has in no way, shape, or form affects the ship cost.
you've already paid for it by picking Boba Fett.
Right.
Correct, exactly. So I can do better things like having, crew 000 in my opinion with a 1 point composure than try to do something else. Shield up, I could have taken shield upgrade and,
Yeah.
there's a lot of
Oh
lot of
no, I
things that
think
you
like I'm not trying to. Like I say, it's not a critique of
no
the
no no
list at all. It's
no
just
no
a
no 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 I'm answering it, my
yeah,
thought process here,
yeah.
is I can, there's a lot of I think this is going to make list building extremely interesting because you're not giving up your list. You're not, having to go to give up a ship in a list to try to put a better or a an upgrade card on your list. It's already intrinsic in the value. So I don't have to worry about that anymore. So my goal is to maximize my list in the best way possible. One of the reasons why this is on there, and and we can go down this road. One of the cards I like a lot is Advanced Sensor. I love Advanced Sensors, but they're no longer in the game, which makes me take different ships.
Have
It's
you
forcing
considered
me.
just crying about it and hating AMG?
Yeah.
Maybe go to the Book of Faces and actually just
Well, what you
spew
don't
that
know
kind
is
of
I
visceral
wrote
out.
him. I wrote him a 67-page letter that I'm going to translate into a
Oh no, no.
YouTube video to
That's not
send
how
to
you do it,
them.
Sean. What you've got to do is you've got to sub Facebook post them, never tagging them, but just like, oh, I'm only being so negative because I want AMG to see it. Uh,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But
okay.
that's
Well, thanks.
I think list building will be a more interesting thing in this game now than it ever has been because now I can play the ship I want to play, if that makes sense.
It's interesting. What interests me about what you're saying, Sean, is that some of the complaints that I've seen have like focused on, oh, the builds are going to become solved, and all I can think of is like, that's just X-wing though.
Yeah.
Like, did we not get? I can't remember what it was called now. The Soontia fell. Um, it was fell, Redline, and was it Whisper? The list that was pretty dominant at the start of 2.0, where people were just dropping more and more upgrades to get it as lean as they could with like I think it was like a 23-point bid or something. And it's like, this is just the best list because you've trimmed all of the fat, you've got exactly what you need, and it outputs this amount of damage, and this is how you win with it. I'm like,
Well,
and
well,
and
another
that's
thing.
sorry,
Well, go ahead.
it's not that, and that's not a criticism of that style of list building and the copy pasta or all of that. I have no issues with that, but trying to say that this is bad because you can solve it feels strange when that's the world we used to live in.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I
Well,
don't
you
know.
remember you remember, that great card game of Android Netrunner, where
Uh,
basically you
I know
were
of
you
it.
were yeah,
It was a good game.
well, the thing about that game was that when you picked your corp, you were basically picking 12 to 15 cards from what I remember of it out of that corp because you had standard builds that you had to have in to be able to win if you were the runner or the corp. You had to build your decks a specific way and then use your points or, whatever you got from your corporation to try to, enhance that deck. But the lists were, 85% already solved, because if you didn't choose the cards, you weren't going to make your money or do whatever you had to do to get through. With this, and I've seen a lot of hate on the fact that, I've seen a lot of people stating that generics are dead now. But what's funny to me about generics is one of the people that stated it that I saw in a Facebook group were the same people bitching and moaning that generics were too much in the game.
Wait, you're kidding.
Yeah, and I just kind of laughed
No,
when I saw that.
one thing, this is obviously in jest, but one thing that you got to remember is like, and no, the no, not like that people. It's like, I want all of the ships to be viable. Oh no, not 6 Nantexes. Oh,
Yeah,
why don't we have generics? But no, not 6 Inquisitors. No, I don't
right,
want I don't want a disciplined Baron swarm. Not like this.
right,
I want it to be just viable enough for me to dunk on them with my ships.
right.
And like, don't get me wrong, that's exactly, I agree. I'm a big fan of where, like, I don't like bids that are bigger than mine.
Yeah,
As long as I have the biggest bid, bids are fine.
right, right.
I'm a big fan of my Initiative 4 pilots being the ace on the table. I love it when you bring Initiative 3 and I've got Initiative 4. It's a lot harder when you take Initiative 5, though, so I think that aces are a problem. I don't know.
Yeah,
But, and there's recognizing that mindset sometimes can be difficult. This is something that all of us are guilty of to some degree.
right, exactly. Now I want to throw something out there because I just built this list in Yazub and stuff, and I want to make sure I got everything. Looks like I did. Okay, so my list in Yazub would have been 221 points.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so now this just goes to show that points, the points don't matter. It's how you build your list out. And to me, if you have a loadout of 22, you want to try to maximize 22. Now, if you put something on there that you're going to forget about, well, you would have forgotten about it anyway because you wouldn't have had it on there in the first place.
Yeah.
And that's kind of conceptually where I am with this list building with the loadout cost. Is if I'm going to build it out, I'm going to build it out 100%,
Yeah.
Yeah,
because
agreed.
you never know, that card that I threw on there that was a 2-point card may actually have something bearing in a game. You never know now. So, a 221 points list, I'm pretty happy with it. You know,
For me, it was a lot of those cards that you would like to put on a ship, but you're like, oh, well, I need to buy 2 points here or 3 points here to get it under. So I'm going to strip this card off
well,
of this one so that I can get this upgrade over here because now I don't have points for this anymore. That
so
it's taken that all away.
with that said, I would have had to taken Nadru off my list
Right.
because it's 28 points just to get me back under 200 with 8 points left over, or actually more points than that left over. I, I'm happy with this. Really quick, I want to go through my Rebel list because I do not have upgrades on this because I conceptually have this list in my head for a reason, and I can talk about the macro side, but not the micro side of the list yet because I got to figure out upgrades that will actually synergize with my loadouts on this list. But
Okay.
I'll quickly start with my lowest point cost ship, which is Lieutenant Blount.
You went blank. I
Um,
was curious.
2 points because it's a 18-point list otherwise.
Yeah.
I have Garvin Dries, and his ability is
Is
to
that
when
in the arc, or is he in the arc and the X-wing?
he's in the T65.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah, I think Garvin's available in both, that's all.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's in the T65 X-wing in my list. He has a 5 ship cost with a 10 loadout, and like I said, I haven't loaded him out yet. But his ability is to pass the focus tokens after you've spent a focus token.
Yeah.
So conceptually, he's there to help others, but also high impact ship. He can shoot 3 dice at you, 4 dice at range 1. He's not a bad ship overall, and I can fly X-Wing. So the other 3 ships, though, that I have in this list are the ASF-01B wings. And the 3 pilots that I chose is Ten Num, because why not? He is such a good pilot, and if I should happen to be stressed with him, so I can K-turn, and then he allows you to spend your stress on both attacks and defense dice to modify your dice. My second is Netram Pollard, and she is allowed to pass stress to another ship.
Yeah.
And then Gina Moonsong, who has a similar ability to that. 10 Num costs 5, loadout 20. So he's kind of the big hitter in the list. And then Netram Pollard is 4 and 11, and Gina Moonsong is 4 and 11.
Yeah.
So conceptually, I think this is a great list because these ships don't move very fast, and once you're in range of objectives, you can do a lot to stay in range of these objectives with these ships.
I know you said you've got no upgrades nailed down at the minute. I do have one change for you just from exactly what you just said there. Because of it being relatively slow, I would consider changing in this list Blount into Derek Kilvin, because he's the 2-point A-wing, the RZ-1 A-wing.
I have a hard time flying A-wings in this type of a list, unfortunately for me, because they don't have 1 straights, and that kills me in X-Wing.
So his job, in my mind, is to protect you against scenario play. You just 5 straight to an objective, and then activate. He doesn't hang around. If he never shoots, it's irrelevant. Just
yeah.
And I think he can still take the config, so you can point his cannons backwards. Oh no, perfected cannon. Yeah, am I? Yeah, that's right. So you can still you can point his cannons backwards, just run away from stuff, leave them pointed backwards, take scenario actions all the time, and it doesn't matter. He's irrelevant to what everyone else is doing. Because for Blount, to get the most value out of Blount, you want to get other ships to within range 1. But if I think with the way you're describing the list, I feel like you're going to be engaging range 3, then range 2, then range 1. With Blount, I think you want to jump into range 1 with something earlier, if that makes sense.
That does, yeah.
I feel like Blount probably not going to get as much value as is possible from him, whereas in Derek could offer you something that is a hole in the list otherwise.
Let me look at him real quick. After you acquire or spend a lock, you may remove 1 red token from yourself.
Oh yeah, it's irrelevant. Like his ability is irrelevant. It's just I want something quick that can do a 5 straight to grab an objective.
Yeah, he's just a speed demon, basically. Yeah, that's actually a very good move there. You get where I'm coming from. Why Blount? Because if everybody's in a furball in the middle, Blount would be effective.
So when we get to my rebel list, you'll understand why I picked Blount over the A-wing.
Gotcha. But anyway, the concept of this list is that furball knife fight. I can, once I'm in the fight, this is going to be a tough list to beat, because if I can get to and cap, I can shoot you too, and there's a lot of firepower with these lists. And like I said, I haven't built them out because I want it to be a maximum, everything to be maximized, basically.
I'm just going to go through and give you just the I don't want my opponent to have fun version of these lists.
Yeah.
So you can do, on those 3 B-Wings, you can do Trajectory Simulator and Proton Bombs.
Yep. Yeah.
So they just, I wouldn't. I would on 10 Num, I would, because you have enough points. so you can fling bombs forwards at the people. But
Yep.
because they come with the config now, I personally think you want to get cannons in there, and you can do like ion cannons on all three of them
Right.
relatively easily.
And you're
Um,
actually moving the way that I was thinking already. Not with the trajectory simulator, but now that you said that, that makes total sense. But yes, I was going to do either auto blasters or the ion cannons, depending upon how I decide I'm going to load them out. Just because ions would be annoying as all get out for the opponents, especially small base ship opponents.
yeah. Um, but yeah, there's a lot you can do. Like, I've got just what 8 points of loadout with the ion cannons fire control on the 2 cheap B-wings. You've still got 3 points to play around for upgrades there.
Yep.
10 with trajectory, proton bombs, and ion cannon. He's still got 4 points of upgrades to go.
Yep.
Garvin, I've been a fan when I've been looking at because there's a bunch of X-wings which basically the designers obviously said no, you can't have proton torpedo.
Yes, I noticed that too.
But they give you enough points for like a shield upgrade to make them like extra, like shield or hull, and then just a decent droid. Like if you just
Right.
want to go regen, you could go shield and an R2.
Art. Art.
You can't do an R2 with a shield on him, but you could do like a hull and an R5, or you could do shield upgrade and like someone else. But
Yep.
the other thing
The,
that I think you could do in this one, sorry, Sean, is you've got an I5 in Gina. You could stack up some swarm tactics as well, and just
so
have everyone
so
shoot an I5.
that was the other thing I wanted to talk about. The reason why I like this list is because I have variance and a little bit of variance in pilot skill. So um, conceptually, my goal was to have higher initiative on the pilots with the fives and the fours and having consistency in there. And if I choose to fly these guys in formation, I still can, which is another piece to it too, was the ability to do something like a Pixid, or before you break up, before you do the first engagement or after you do the first engagement, having B-wings going in 3 different directions would be a tough chase for people too. If they're just trying to gun me down, I would have that ability to have variance, once we're in the middle, especially.
Yeah,
And having the fours and fives was important to me. And then, with Netrum, Pollard, and Gina Moonsong, basically, force feeding 10 num with stress. I mean, you just can't really beat that, you know. So there's, the ability to formation fly. There's the ability to, for these guys, they could actually stand on their own if they need to. They're B wings, they got some power and they got some health. So that's the other part of the list, and I think that when you're dealing with objectives, especially when you're looking at the satellite one, the one in the middle, um, you know, this is a good list for objective based play, in my opinion.
yeah. All right. I think having the A wing helps for the multiple objective ones, and then you just try and kill everyone or control with ion and stuff.
Yep, exactly.
One thing I think you can do with rebels, they have a bunch of really interesting 4 point initiative fives. Like you could change the the second B wing, is it Pollard, into Faye and Carell, and have an extra initiative 5, so it'd be 2x 2B and an A. But
Yeah,
I
no, no, no.
don't I don't know that it's like massively different, but like I
No,
think there's a bunch of stuff for Rebel where you can get interesting.
yes. I think the Rebels actually, in my opinion, the Rebels they have a lot of granularity in them, in that you can do a lot of different things with them.
Yeah.
If you want firepower, you can be a heavy firepower list. If you want control, you can do control. If you still want to joust, you could still joust with them. If
Yeah.
you want speed, you could, be the speed demon, and just try to cap as many points and hope you can half point a ship or two. I really like rebels in the scenario play. If I'm not mistaken, I've seen a lot of people complain that rebels will be handicapped, but
I think
I
from
don't
the
think,
first event that they did last weekend, I'm pretty sure there was a bunch of rebels in play, but whatever.
yeah, but I'm talking about, the the experts of X-wing that know everything about X-wing and never putting a ship on the table to test what they're talking about, but know it all
So,
before they've
Dripping with
ever played it.
so
sarcasm.
the Lack of Focus
Dripping.
podcast, is that who you're talking about now?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, by the time we get together again, I'll have the rebel list built out, and
Yeah.
then we'll be able to, because that's probably the first one I'm going to play anyway when we play
Yeah.
is the rebel list. So
Okay. I think Ed should do his so we don't go rebel to rebel. So you should do one of yours,
exactly.
Ed.
Cool. All right, so I'll take the first one that I always build in every new edition. I always decide to build
So TIE Swarm coming up. Yeah.
TIE Swarm. So for me, it was a question whether or not I wanted to go with a six ship effective pilots or 7-ship generic build. I elected to go for the 6-ship build. It was really kind of easy.
You didn't
because
just do 8 obsidians and give your opponent like 6 points or whatever?
No. That would be silly.
Oh,
So,
man.
and of course, since a whole bunch of them got open talent slots that were not there before, I decided to make this a crackshot TIE Swarm, which I thought was going to be a ton of fun, if nothing else. So I went Howrunner with precision ion engines, crackshot, and then I had a point left over, so I gave her marksmanship. I had something very similar with Iden. Precision ion ends. Gave her an ion missile because I had 2 points left over with her because I didn't know what else to do with it after I gave her crackshot and marksmanship. I went with Gideon with crackshot. I went with Delmika with crackshot and marksmanship. I went with Wampa with crackshot and marksmanship. And then for whatever reason, poor Scourge was only allowed to have 3 loadout slots, so he's the only one that doesn't have marksmanship on top of it. So he just ended up with crackshot.
I'm disappointed in you, Ed. I wanted you to give Iden Versio Advanced Proton Torpedo and no way to take a target lock.
No. I did see that one coming out. I mean, technically she could, but no.
Oh, you can actually get her locks from other things, but that's by the by. It's okay.
Yeah, but there are ways that you can get it, but you have a lot of you're relying on another ship, and I don't like the idea of spending that kind of points on a ship that can't natively use it.
Yep, fine.
So obviously, the idea going, of course, with crackshot, I like precision ion engines on the 2 big ones, simply because, as we talked about earlier, that this is going to be a lot of game about positioning, and especially when running a TIE Swarm, if I'm happen to be like, oops, I dialed in a 3K turn and it looks like I'm going to bump, I've got a in case of emergency break glass kind of situation where I can switch it over to Rosagnor's loop, or maybe that was the plan all along, so that I could end up taking an objective or getting closer to an objective kind of thing. And I really, like I said, I'm really looking forward to putting it on the table. I think for the objective-based games, it's going to do well. The only one that I'm worried about is the one with the single objective in the center that is basically dogfighting. I don't
So
know how.
I did want to talk about that real quick. So
Sure, go ahead.
So really quick with that one, with the objective in the middle, I think that is X-Wing 2.0. So that is the one scenario where, remember, because when we were talking about this in the beginning, we talked about quickly the scenarios that are out there, but it didn't include the dogfight scenario, correct? I think that one is your dogfight scenario. So it's kind of like
when we talked about it today. In the past, we thought that there was going to be one of the scenarios was just going to be straight up dogfighting. It turns out that that's not necessarily accurate.
And I think that is the one that is going to be the dogfighting scenario, is because you're going to have to, it's going to be interesting, I think, with that scenario and lists, because and the problem is it's only one it's only one mission that you're doing, so that's one round of play. And if you're building your list as a, kick them off the table type list, you're only going to really have an advantage in one game. And then
Right.
after that, it's, my philosophy is you're going to have to build a list that you can run over rocks, that you can run over gas clouds, and that you can sit on rocks and gas clouds and not shoot for turns.
Well, and that was kind of my thought process too, is you need to have some quote unquote chaff ships. Like,
Yep.
your job is to go in that left corner over there where nobody else is going there and just spin around an objective and collect points. That's it. That's your whole job. For
Yeah.
3 points, I'm okay doing that with a TIE fighter, where the other ones are going off and maybe they're taking out a ship, maybe they're not. Or the ability to be able to just fan out and grab as many in the early game and
Yep.
then fast enough that they can run away whenever they need to.
Yeah. But we had talked about that in the past too, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about the way that you list build or playing the dogfight game and then run away, because you're still going to give up on some of the scenarios. If you run away, you potentially giving up points to your opponent. And we have talked about that, before, because there was one of the things that Kris was stating to my comment about the game and about building lists to kill your opponent's list, is that you have to look at it as objective based too, because if you're pointing my 3 ships at one of your ships and you have 6 in your list, that's 5 others to cap points.
Exactly. So
And
that was the other
yeah,
thought process for me, was along the lines of the list. Like, TIE Storm's not been good not been really good for a long time. It's been a fun list, it always has been, but it's not been
yeah,
a really good list for a long time. And what my thought process is the list that this normally would not do so well against, I don't know how viable they're going to be in a quote unquote competitive environment. They're going to be really good at one scenario, and the other 3, I don't feel that they're going to be as strong.
right.
So, how often am I going to see those lists that are like the rock to my paper, or the rock to my scissors kind of thing? Like, how often are those lists going to be viable in this environment? So that was the other thought process for me on this one. Plus the fact that, damn it, I'm just a TIE Storm player at heart, so of course that's the first place I was going to go.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and
So
yeah.
I've got one for you, Ed. I've made a couple of changes. I think you'll like
Sure,
this one
sure, sure, sure.
better.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I kept Hell, Iden, Gideon, Delmico, Wampa, and Maul. I changed.
Oh, you went to Maul?
I went to Maul. I
I
think his
debated.
ability. I think the ability is easier to trigger. I think it's easier to be at range 1 than it is to be in bullseye.
Yeah, fair,
That's my
fair.
reasoning for that. But then the upgrades, I just went for. I want to be I want my 3 health ships to be on the table for longer. And if you kill me, I want it to be to you. I want you to not want to kill me. So
Uh-oh.
everyone who had 3 loadout points got disciplined and ruthless. So
Okay, hang
Mauler
on.
is disciplined and ruthless. Gideon is disciplined and ruthless. And ruthless, I might not use. Who can say? But if I really need to push that damage through with my 4 dice range 1 attack,
Mm-hmm.
maybe one of these other TIE fighters can take some damage. It's all right, because if they die, I trigger discipline and everyone gets target locks.
Mm-hmm.
Then Hellrunner got elusive and a hull upgrade, so she always gets a reroll.
Debated that. I genuinely debated that. Let me do
Iden
that.
gets elusive, disciplined, and an auto blaster cannon. Because then if you just happen to roll a crit and aren't in arc, the crit's landing. Well done.
Okay.
And if you
Hang
do
on. It
bullseye
was
someone, it's a 3 dice attack, so it's upping your offense a little bit. I
so you
think
gave Iden, hang on, double check. Elusive, hull
disciplined.
upgrade. And then the
Only
hull.
Hellrunner has a hull upgrade, because
Oh,
that's
okay.
target number 1, which is also why Hellrunner doesn't have disciplined. Because the
Good
ship
point.
that's going to die first doesn't need disciplined.
Got it. And then what was the last one on Iden?
Auto blasters for a cannon.
Perfect. Oh, I see where you're going.
Then
Okay, I see where.
Delmico is elusive and disciplined, and Wampa is elusive and disciplined.
Very
So
nice.
as soon as you damage them and are still near Delmico, you get into reroll 2 of your evades.
Yep.
And when people are dying, you get into do barrel rolls and target locks. So I think that as a 6-ship TIE Swarm, I think this is probably where I would be looking. I might not do that combination of pilots, but I think that's not a bad version of the list.
It's not bad. I mean, it's got. What are we looking at? We're looking at. Well, we got Wampa at Initiative 1, but you don't really want to shoot him anyway. Got some 4s and 5s. I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's interesting. But yeah, so you were saying you watched my video first and then went and just counted to 20. So you knew you wanted a TIE Swarm and just went with it?
Yep, I knew I wanted a TIE Swarm. I went, okay, how many ships can I get in at TIE Swarms? 4s, 4s, 3s, and 3s. So it's a 6-ship. I had the option if I wanted to, because there are, of course, other options. You could go all the way down to 2s, which would involve me dropping 2 of the name pilots to get 3 generics and get me up to obsidians. Which is interesting that Academy pilots, I love that they did this. Academy pilots are 3 points, obsidians are 2, because academies are much better at blocking.
Yeah, I like it as well. I like that it's the middle one that's the cheapest.
Yes, I agree. So that's what I went with on this one. And then my second squad was I was going for the okay, can I try to blow my opponent off the board, which is going to involve Vader, of course. Now I know I probably don't have all the optimal upgrades, but basically it's a Vader Seventh Sister, and then since you can't take Fifth Brother anymore,
Oh, big
Kris,
sad.
big sad, I decided to do a Lone Wolf Afterburner Pure Sabak just for the extra points.
It's
And
one of the ones
since
I thought Chad would be excited for because Pure Sabat got better, I think.
I agree 100%. And then just to finish that out, I put Malice, and again, I probably don't have these correct. I've got Malice on Vader with prime thrusters and ion missiles because I had 2 points left over and I wasn't leaving points on the table. Never know, might come in handy. If not, oh well. You could take. We've already argued that you could take Vader naked and he'd be fine. He doesn't really need them, but I do have 14 points to spend, so
yeah.
And then Seventh Sister, I gave a crack shot of Malice and a fire control system.
Yeah.
There's probably a better loadout for her on that one as well. I didn't put a ton of thought into this one, but this is the one I was going to try to toy around with.
Yeah. All right. I mean, Vader Defender is difficult. Because I think you list when you're running Vader Defender, it's always about Vader Defender now.
Yes. So that was part of the reason why I went with the Lone Wolf Pure Sabak, because I wanted him going out there and either snagging objectives or bullying those other ships that other ships are sending out for objectives. Like if someone takes the same theory that I did, I'm going to have a couple of small point ships to just run out and grab those ones on the ends. Pure Sabak will be there to light them up.
Yeah.
And then I'll just let Vader do Vader things.
So one of the things that I was looking at if you wanted a Vader is X1 Vader.
Ooh.
22 points of loadout.
I did see that. That's a lot of points.
That's a lot of Vader.
I went Brilliant Evasion, just so it is less likely to be force starved. Malice. I actually went Targeting Synchronizer, which you'll find funny later on as we get there.
I looked at that one. I thought that would have been cool. I thought Prime Thrusters would be better. Just to be able to give me the more actions on top of actions.
This, on the Defender, I agree, but this is on the X1. Then what else was it? I was like, I think I just went double mods here. Is this right? Did I go upgrade, shield upgrade? Maybe I did. Oh no, afterburners. I obviously put afterburners on him because I'm not that bad at the game. No, yeah, maybe. Well, I'm all confused now. 5 points. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's fine. Whatever. I think maybe I'll leave points on the table, but targeting synchronizer is the important one because then if you go to a TIE interceptors, the Saber squadrons have all got missiles, but no, you have to buy them targeting computers to get your target locks. Unless Vader gets a lock, and then you just give them all homing missiles. And our favorite, disciplined. So now
That's interesting.
Vader takes a lock, and then you go, "Hi, this intercept would like to know if you want me to roll 4 attack dice at you. If not, you could just take a damage, and I'll not even roll. It's okay."
Yeah, we don't even need to get dice involved in this conversation.
This is one of a few times where I made a spam generic. I say spam, it's 3 sabers with homing missile and disciplined, and then Vader with whatever you want, as long as targeting synchronizer is your tech slot.
Mm-hmm.
But
That's
yeah,
interesting.
I thought that was funny.
It is funny. I like it.
Yeah. Then so I'll do my rebel list because I said at the start of the show, and we're 2 hours in now, that I would talk about the actual list that I did. So I called this squad, "How does Sabine have a torpedo?" So the focus of this list is that Sabine in the A-Wing, which has got a really strong pilot ability of basically a souped up Concordia face-off and Fearless built in, has a torpedo slot on her A-Wing now. And 15 points of loadout.
It's interesting, isn't it?
So I gave her advanced proton torpedo, clan training, and a hull upgrade. So she's 3 hull, 2 shields. She fly, basically, you just 5 straight at somebody, take the target lock, and then boost forwards. And then you go, okay, well, I'm going to clan training in the engagement phase to get my focus token, and I'm going to shoot this proton torpedo at you. Can you survive my 5 dice attack? And then because we're all in on range 1 5 dice attacks that just like wreck people, we've got Derek Ulden, who's a 5-point rebel fang fighter from a Pride of Mandalore pack, who's another initiative 3, so it's 2 initiative 3 ships. This guy is whenever you do a red maneuver or a red action, you get to acquire a target lock on someone in your front arc at range 1. So, for example, with a fang fighter, if you were to be right next to Sabine, who just 5-straighted, target locked and boosted, this guy could 5-straight boost and then red focus, which gives him a target lock. And he also has advanced proton torpedoes. So this is now 10 dice that I'm going to roll at you. Then, you know what rebels can take Fenro now?
I heard that. I heard that before.
Yeah, and his fang fighter. So he's got advanced proton torpedoes and a hull upgrade. Because he's going to 5 straight and then, just be around. He'll target lock and sit a bit further back, whatever, it doesn't matter. Because the key here is that the other 2 pilots had to stress themselves. But Fen says that whenever another ship at range 1 to 2, whenever a friendly ship at range 1 to 2 engages, or before it engages, if there's an enemy at range 1 of it in its front arc, you could remove a non-lock red token. So Sabine can go, "Oh man, I really wish I wasn't stressed because then I could use my clan training." And Fengers, "It's all right, love, I've got this.
I got this.
I'll take that stress for you." Or if you're not stressed, you can activate clan training first, do the red focus action, and then Fengers, "No, it's okay. I've got you. Don't be stressed. You want a K turn behind them next turn. It's all right."
Yeah.
And then I had 5 points left, and I was like, "Oh, I've got 3 really fragile ships here that are charging at people." So I took Lieutenant Blunt for 2 points. As I said, Sean, you'd realise why I felt Blunt was more value in my list than yours. Because 3 of my ships are running headlong at my opponent to be at range 1 of them. So he's just a 3 dice primary ship doing his best. Then my third ship, just because I thought this was funny, was a Sheafapede for coordinating so that Fenrir can have target locked focus shots as well. Because he doesn't want to be shown up by his friends having target locked focus shots, but not him.
Right, of course.
Yeah. But then I was like, oh man, what about if someone kills my Sheafapede? Well, I've got 8 points worth of loadout, so R2D2 as the
Oh
astromech.
God.
So he's got 3 regen for his 1 shield. But it's like, oh man, you got shot. Oh well, I'll not shoot this turn, but luckily I can still coordinate. And he just plods along behind them and just keeps coordinating Fenrir. That was a plan anyway. Turns out on the table I'm terrible at the game and just fly the Sheafapede away from my entire list and make. So I was like, not coordinating, just getting wrecked, being an idiot. This list was a lot harder to play than I actually thought it was. The opening engagement is fine because you just generally get at least 2 advanced protons, or at least 1 advanced proton in a couple of shots. I annihilated Rose in the pod in like 1 round of shooting. And just take her off. There's no point. She's dead. Don't worry about it. But like even that, it wasn't even the entire list. It was Blount shooting and Dirk shooting his advanced proton, and it's like, yeah, okay, you're not surviving that. Just take her off. But yeah, it's very aggressive. It's got a bunch of fast ships to try and get around the table to control objectives, and I think it does well in the dogfighty one because it jousts pretty well if you can get range 1. But I really struggled with the synergy of keeping everything where it needed to be to work.
So I hate bringing things back to 40K as I often do, but when going into list building for 40K lists, you always tend to have like, okay, these are going to be my objective parkers. These are the ones I'm going to be sending out to go and collect objectives. These are going to be my long range shooters. These are going to be my there are roles
Archetypes.
that right, archetypes that,
Yeah.
that take place in each. I'm curious to see if list building starts going into something like that. Oh, well, you got to have at least 1 or 2 objective markers. Like those are the ones that are going to go fly out and grab objectives. Like a good standard X-wing build always has 2 quick ships that's their whole job, is to go out and grab an objective and run with it. I'm kind of curious to see if that's how we start falling into list building.
I think that would be a reality if objectives weren't just 1 point each. So if capping an objective, now you're looking at it over 12 rounds, of course, but
and most scenarios have multiple objectives,
right, and if objectives were 3 points, 2 points, 1 point, then I could see the archetype building being more important. But I still think the dogfight building is going to be, because you're going to get the most points effectively out of half points right off the bat than you will capping objectives.
So one thing that I think is pretty relevant to that is if you can build a list for, right, just making sure I'm thinking of this right. 3 of the scenarios have got 5 objectives on the table.
Correct.
So if you can build a list that's going to get you 3-1 advantage, remember it's a race to 20.
It is.
Right.
On turn 4, you can be at 12 without having fired a shot.
If they're playing a different game than you, yes.
Yeah, that's it. But it's if you can build a list that's going to get you that objective advantage, then all you have to do is if you kill one, even a 4-point, if you've killed 1 4-point ship, you're at 16 points in turn 4, and the pressure's on then, because like, if you leave me alone, next turn I'm at 19 points.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
and that's turn 5. I'm 1 turn away from winning, and you've got, you know what I mean? So
Hmm.
I do think that what Ed's saying holds some merit. I just don't know what it looks like yet.
Right,
Because
neither do I. Like I'm throwing out my first thoughts on this is one
yeah,
archetype being 1 or 2 ships out there specifically for the role of going out and collecting objectives. There are going to be other objective
Well,
clearers, for example, that are going to often blow those ships off. Like I built that exactly in my list. I picked Pure Sabak for specifically for a reason of having Lone Wolf and being out there being like, if there are those ships out there that I'm just going to fly to this objective and go and take it, he's there to handle that. Because my guess is that those are going to be cheap small point, small hull, small shield kind of ships that are just there to just sit on an objective, which I can then take. At worst
well,
case scenario, I can contest it. Best case scenario is that I can kill it.
well. I just built a list with 3 B-wings for that purpose alone.
yeah.
Yeah, yours are a little bit beefier objective markers. I'm not gonna lie.
No, that's it. But the thing, the way you've got to then look at playing against Sean is if you can beat him to those objectives, can he catch you afterwards? And like, there's a
No, I get
bunch
that. I
of
get I,
yeah,
I get that. There's a give and take in the game.
yeah. And this is what I find
There's
interesting about a list building at the moment is it's all unknown, so
right,
we don't know. Maybe it is more rock paper scissors, which we all enjoyed initially of like that old concept of swarms, turrets, and aces.
right.
You know,
But
maybe
I
we're
think
closer to that now than we ever have been. Maybe I don't know.
does this
Maybe.
bring? Hey, the question I do have is, does this bring turrets back in the game?
I don't know that this brings turrets back in it. I'll tell you what I do think brings turrets back in the game, and this is one for Ed to look at again. Um, just gonna change it here. So let's have a quick look at a VT-49 Decimator with Rear Admiral
Ooh,
Shiranu.
great! Oh,
Because
good old times.
how many points was Shiranu in old money? Let's have a look.
I haven't seen him run in
So
so long.
75 points. So 7.5 in new money is currently 9, so 90. You're getting 10 points of extra value because he's got
Yeah.
35 points of loadout.
Yeah.
I I j- I'm beyond. I don't know what to spend it on. I literally like
You have to, if you're going to spend it on him, you're going to have to beef him
yeah.
Agreed.
because you have to make him survive as long as possible because you're going to get half points on a 9-point ship. You're
No,
going to get
I'm an idiot. Sorry. So he was 75 points before.
yeah,
Then if you put 35 points of load on him, that's not 10 points of value. That's 20. He would be 110 points. He's now 9, which would be 90. So you're getting
yep.
Yeah.
20 points worth of free
But
upgrades in old money.
he's also 1/4 of the way. If you take him off the table, he's 1/4 of the way on half points and almost
Yeah.
halfway to your objective amount. And because he doesn't roll defense dice, I mean,
Oh, I
ultimately,
agree, Sean. I don't think you're
you
wrong,
know,
but I
yes, he's a hunk of ship, but he's so when I look at like him, I look at my list, and if I can rack up 2 hits out of the 4 big ships in my list on that ship, well, I've already half pointed him.
right. So taking that example before, if you can get the objective advantage against a list with Shiranu, then you can win on turn 4 because you kill Shiranu
Right,
turn 4, which isn't
right,
beyond like what 12 to 16 shots roughly to kill a reinforced decimator. It seems like a reasonable take, given that
right.
it's going to be like some at range 3, blah blah blah. Um, but you're going to have had that probably. So yeah, you could win on turn 4. Like, I mean, obviously that's the worst, like most disingenuous statement ever. Yes, you could win on turn 4, Sean. I mean, you could win on
Well,
turn 1 because I deploy all my ships backwards and fly off the table, you know. But
yeah,
you know what I'm driving towards without me going
yeah.
to stupid
I mean,
extremes.
one of the things is that if you're looking at distances and stuff, you know, you're speeding out to 1 or 2 objectives most likely on turn 1. That's what you're going to get turn 1. You're not going to get all 4 or 5. You're going to get 1 or 2 on turn 1 just because of distance in the game, because you're putting rocks out, then you're putting the center one, and then you're putting the other ones out. Well, hopefully you're putting your 2 out that are most advantageous to you, and your opponent's putting the ones that are the most advantageous to them to get turn 1 points. After that, though, it's a free-for-all. It becomes a scrum in the middle after that. And that's the way that I see it anyway, with the way that things designed. Is that it's just you're scrumming at that middle, and you have to be able to survive the knife fight in the middle to be able to cap objectives.
Yeah.
That's the way that I see this game, because when Ed goes back to his 40K concept of if I'm trying to cap an objective, I'm putting my heavy intercessors on that objective. So my heavy intercessors are in the list because of that objective capping, and because they're hard to kick off an objective. They're hard to kill and take off the objective, and that's kind of what you have to look at in this game now. Is that same concept that you would have in 40K when you're building? Are you going to be able to, is there a ship out there that is truly strong enough to be able to withstand 2 or 3 turns capping objectives without dying? And of course, you don't factor in lucky dice. You don't factor,
Sure.
rolling in the triple natties, because that's just the minutia of the game as it goes.
See, it's interesting your thought process on that one, because mine was, and I totally do understand. You're right. Like, having those heavy B-wings sitting on an objective are going to be pretty hard to knock off, but how many can they hold? Whereas if I have multiple ships out there, my 3 to your 1, like, sure, I can't knock you off, but that also means that you're not knocking me off of 3 other objectives.
But I'm also have other ships that have the firepower. And the thing I'm looking at, Ed, is the firepower to be able to knock you off. And if I do put, ion cannons on those things, now I can slow you down if I can get hits through. Now I'm controlling the game like you used to with the Academy pilot in the game. Now I'm controlling, so I think the archetype builds are going to be so much more intricate, because you're going to have that speed that Kris is talking about. Let's go out and get them. If that A-wing never shoots a shot, that's great. Or you're going to have the way that I look at it, where let's get some beef out there and firepower, and see if we can control the center. B-wings are kind of like Shirno in a way, where they are kind of limited just because of the 1 defense die. And then you're looking at TIE fighters because A, you have speed, and B, you kind of sort of have staying power with them if you have average dice. Taking a 6 TIE fighters is a tough one to kill. It's a tough amount to kill. So, Kris has a different way of viewing it, and I think that Kris is 100% correct. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting seeing what comes of this. What are we going to see at Adepticon? That's what my question is. If this is how the game is going to be played at Adepticon, what are we going to see? Are we going to see, are we going to see variants, or are we going to see the same static crap that you see at most tournaments, where archetype X or Y wins the tournament because it's just the best archetype? One of the things you're going to see, I think, when you're looking at this, is you're going to see a lot more high initiative pilots, because you want to shoot first. You want to move last and shoot first, because it's going to be that wait and see. What is my opponent doing? I need to, if I can get up there, I need to knock him off before he knocks me off. That type of thing. And I think it's going to be interesting.
I agree to a point. If I had to guess, and again, I'm not in the competitive ranks, so like, take every word that comes out of my mouth with a grain of salt. If I had to guess, I would think it's going to be more mixed squads. I think that you're right in the fact that you're going to have, but that's why I'm falling into this archetype, that you're going to have that 1 high initiative pilot skill for the reasons to want to be able to shoot first. But I also think that you're going to have your other roles taken up by other ships. Now, whether that's objective camping because I can sit there and you can't knock me off, or I have a bunch of small ships and they're running out and grabbing multiple objectives that you can't go out necessarily and kill all of us all at once, kind of thing. It's going to be interesting. I don't think that lists 6 months from now are going to look the way that lists looked the way they before. I think those days are long gone.
I think lists 6 months from now will be different anyway, even from what we're talking about tonight, because there'll be refinement in the game. You know, as you go, the game gets refined, lists get refined, things like that. You're gonna find the min max in this, and it's gonna do just like every other X-wing version has done, where it's going to fall into an archetype. And you know, we don't know what's going to happen when the Razor Crest releases or all these other ships release, and what AMG is putting out there for us. You know, what is the game going to look like once AMG's ship designs start hitting the table?
Yeah.
Because the other good thing and the other maybe bad thing is, the good thing to me, bad to others maybe, is you're going to see, I think, the ban list fluctuate. So I think that they're going to see that all their playtesting that they've talked about with the being, you know, like the Slave One title where you can change the dials or change your positioning or advanced sensors aren't going to have that much of a difference once the min max and once the game hits that center line. You know, once the Paul Heavers and the, you know, and the Howards and all these high level players start really dinking and dunking with this stuff, the European players, the UK players, you know, you're going to see it. I think the game will fall into what 1.0 and 2.0 fell into, where there's going to be lists that just maximize the game. And 6 months from now, when you hit Worlds time, it's going to be different than you're going to see at Adepticon.
It'll be interesting. It's exciting. That's not, if nothing else, I'm super excited.
The game has to evolve, no matter what. The game has to evolve. So that's what you have to, you know, have to look at in this, is the game will evolve, and then we'll see what happens. I'm excited to see the game. I'm excited to watch games and see how players play the game with the new rules too. You know, this isn't just, we're talking about scenarios and objectives. You have a lot of new rules that exist out there. You know, the other question we haven't seen yet is, are tournaments still timed games, or is it a 12-round game? And I'm going to be honest with you, and I will say this to AMG directly: you need to keep a timed game in place.
I mean,
yeah, I was wondering about
I'm fairly
that.
sure that they've said that on stream.
I haven't
really.
seen it.
I mean, my memory is pretty vague. So I think it was one of like the first things he addressed was that, like, of course, for OP, like, you need to have some form of timekeeping as well.
Yeah,
but like,
but
again,
I do have a question. Does time affect scenarios then? And this is just a question I'm asking.
No, you're getting to good questions.
I think I've got a different conversation I think we could have just to move us forwards and start getting towards closing the show late. It's getting late for Ed, I know. Like, my gut as a TO at the minute tells me that I was already planning on my minimum number of rounds changing from 3 to 4, so we play every scenario once in a standard event, which is fine for me because of the numbers of players I generally have. That's a roundabout where we beat anyway for like the correct round number. But I also feel like I might run a different timer for each mission.
That's an interesting idea.
Because I feel like the area control, just whoever's got the most ships near, ends quicker than the dogfight one, for example. So I do not have any factual basis for any of this. It's just simply my gut and how because I've obviously I've said to the people I'm going to run an event. We're going to kick off the third Saturday of every month event because like we're reopening in March anyway. So March 19th in Calgary, we're going to be having a casual tournament. And I'm kind of bouncing around ideas for how I want to do it, which is why I've not posted anything online about it yet. But like, that's
You
where
have now.
well, no, it's in that, but that's where I'm at in my headspace. It's like if it's playing quicker, I could probably go to 4 rounds. But then I play and it's like, oh, maybe it depends what mission it is, how long it takes to play. Maybe some take maybe I give the crate one like 5 minutes extra setup time and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I get it. And it not only setup time, but potentially maybe 10 more minutes in the round or something,
yeah.
I mean, that's the difficult thing for me because if I were a TO, I would hate this if I'm looking at it from an overall um, streamline process. Because you got to remember, what was my number one focus? It was 90 minutes around total.
Total from setup to end.
Setup to the next round starting from the next postings for the next round pairings was 90 minutes. And you saw that if you were at, Nova Open, whatever year I ran it, that's exactly what it ran as. I mean, it was the culmination of everything I had done up to that point, and it literally ran to the point where the stream was actually slowing us down and not the TO, which was usually the opposite, And that would be a tough thing for me as a TO, because if you have to give and take on that makes it a little more difficult. And are there, one of the things that was different too is Fantasy Flight had a sliding scale with tournament rounds. If there were X amount of players, it added more rounds. More players, more rounds. And if AMG sticks with 4 rounds and your tournament's over, well, then what's the stratification? How do you get this? This is where my brain starts to fail in trying to even come up with how to articulate this. But if you're looking at a major tournament, and you have 4 scenarios, so you have 4 rounds, how do you determine winners? Because if you have 100 and whatever it is, 20, I can't remember the breakdown anymore, but
So I can tell you what my current plan is if you want, Sean.
yeah, that'd be great.
So I'm planning on doing straight wins losses, obviously.
Yeah.
But there's a chance you're not gonna have a clean winner. Then I'm literally just gonna do points differential. So like 20 to 17 would be 3 points or minus 3 points.
Yeah.
Then my second tiebreaker is gonna be points scored.
So you're going to use like a modified MOV then?
Well, yeah.
Because that was the whole point. That was the whole point of MOV was because
Well,
strength of schedule was so imbalanced. Because if a player quit, you had strength of schedule became imbalanced because you weren't getting credit for that player's wins and
I
losses.
think we've had this conversation in the
Too
past
many
already.
times.
Yeah. But
Too
yeah,
many
like the
times.
reason I'm more comfortable to do it that way at the moment is because it isn't all about like margin of victory in a dogfight where it's whoever just kills the most feels weird because you can just run away to try and preserve MLV and you're like locked into the game.
Yeah.
But when there's other ways of scoring points, it feels more natural to do it that way.
And I
So
agree with that.
that's why I'm more happy to do it that way. Like I'm more of an advocate of strength of schedule in a true Swiss format, but given that it's going to change, if I was running a bigger event, like if I was going to run anything above like 12 to 24 players, I'd just run a graduated cut. Everyone at a given number of wins makes a cut, and then it's single elimination.
And that's where you could pot it out then too.
Yeah.
You could do a 3-round pod, and then the pod winners go to cut, because
Yeah.
that's your easiest way to do it in this scenario.
I don't like. I mean, you're talking about huge events over like multiple days
Well,
and
and
stuff like
and
that, but like,
yeah, and I get where you're coming from, Chris, because you're looking at it as a local event.
well,
You're a local event TO.
I don't. I think that when we get to something that's like a real event, that they're going to have come up with something of their own anyway, and I won't have to make it up. But for me, if I need to make something up, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, well,
Right.
they have what? 3 weeks before they have to figure their crap out
But I'm sure
anyway,
they know
because
what they want to do and all of that anyway.
I'm
Right.
sure
I
I agree. No, this isn't a criticism, Chris. It's just,
Oh no, I didn't. I wasn't taking it that way. And it's more one of those like, and this is very different for me compared to the two of you because I live in Alberta. Like there isn't any X-wing support for us up here because the country's so big. Like it's part of that argument about is worlds really worlds? Like
yeah,
all of them,
Yeah,
like for me, I could travel to one regional and it took me 7 hours to get there. Ed could probably travel to a regional every weekend for like 6 weeks, 7 weeks
probably.
without leaving his like without driving for more than 3 hours.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, that's
it
true.
the discrepancy in that and then like Europe, if you're in the UK, it's probably similar. If you know what I mean? There's all of those
yeah,
factors.
yeah, yeah,
Um
yeah,
That's why I have a very different view because the outlook I have is different. The way I try and structure my TO talk when I'm doing it in this show in this format is more geared towards the people who are gonna run something for their local club, which I guess is between like 4 and 25 people kind of thing. That's like once you get above that level, you do need more structure and organization, but that's where I give my general back and forth advice like that. Anything
yeah.
outside of that, I would caveat it to be different, if that makes any sense.
Nope, 100%. Because for some, that's in unfortunately, my brain is still stuck when it
Oh no, I
comes
get
to
that. Like
organized play on the large
you
event.
probably ran more events that were above like 60 players than other people have run any event. So
For
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I would
yeah,
agree that I've had a few, and that's the thing for me, because we're at a point where the community needs to know, and I know that they know what they're doing. It's just, now how can they execute that? How can they get it out to people so people understand it next? Because you have the first event is what, 3 weeks away, a little 4 weeks away at
yeah.
Adepticon, and then you kind of go from there. you know? And I am interested. I don't really care because I'm not gonna play in the tournaments, I don't think. I will rejoin our local scene for the organized play locally. I will rejoin that now that everything's defined. I can build lists and have fun. You know.
yeah. And I think that's the important part. Overall, get out, play some. Whether
Yep.
we're doing the highly competitive stuff or not, I think it's going to be. I think these problems are going to be everywhere as far as how the game's played. Scoring, if I'm just pick up a game, that's okay. But I am
Yeah.
kind of curious. You are right. They're going to have something official here in a few weeks so that they know how to run their own events.
And I pray to God they have software, because
We can only hope.
try to do a large event by hand would be it'd be tough.
Oh,
You know.
if only like someone would make some software and save us all.
Yeah. Yeah. You know.
Tome's where it's at. I want Tome back.
Hey, you
Oh,
know what?
I was listening to
So
Cryodex commercials in my head.
so the best part is, so I got on my Google Drive the other day, and I still have the original tome that they sent me. Truthfully, I'm not
Yeah.
joking. I
No,
have
I think
I
I've still
have
got it on one of my computers somewhere at work.
Yep.
But
No, I still have the JAR file that they sent me.
Yeah. To be honest, I don't have to worry about it, so I'll be running mine off an Excel spreadsheet, and
Yeah. Smaller
I'll
events you
need
can
to
pull that
work
off.
out if I can get an auto dump per people together who've already played thing, but
Yeah.
again, the numbers I'm worrying about, it's not going to be an issue. So
No. You can do those by hand.
yeah,
And you could do it with a bracketed tournament too if you really wanted to.
I still think the best way of doing stuff is double elimination, but no one has time for that shit.
Now, for small tournaments, I think the absolute best way is bracket and random seeding, and then you bracket it, and then winners stay in the winners bracket, losers drop to the losers bracket, and you get 4 rounds of play out of it, and you're good.
Generally, I've been really lucky in events I run. People tend not to drop anyway, so it's never really an issue. So I don't need to run it like double elimination tournaments anyway. But that's how I
Yeah,
would solve the issue of people complaining that people dropped. But like double realistically, the reason why that doesn't work is because seeding's relatively important for double elim events.
that is
Yes.
that and the fact that double elimination creates other issues
It
with
takes forever.
it. Does it's time consuming, because you got the guy that goes 0-2 and they're done, so you're going to have a round of 1-0s and 0-1s, and then you're going to have the 1-1s 0-2, they're done, the 2-0s drop down, keep going, the 1-0 become 1-1s, and now the 1-1s have to
Yeah, I
conglomerate. And,
yeah.
no, I'm just, in my head, I'm just trying to figure out what the hell that would look like, because that would be a beast.
That's something I would do at a convention where there's other stuff to do.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Like, if you win this game, you need to be here at this time for this game. If you lose this game, you need to be there at that time.
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah, no, I
so
agree.
we're brushing like 2 hours 40 minutes, which after I truncate silence is probably still going to be over 2 hours 20. So I reckon we're getting to a point where we should wrap it up.
Okay, sounds good. Next episode, we're going to go through and do some gameplay, put some actual practical application. I intend to run at least one of the lists that I came up with today. I may steal
So
Chris's data list because it's hysterical.
what I would suggest if we can, and I'll make myself more flexible to be able to do this, but I think we should definitely try and play pre-show so that we can do it as a segment of this is the mission. This is what we thought about it beforehand. Then we played, got these results, and this is what we think about it now.
Sure.
Rather,
Yeah.
because if we try and play whilst we're doing it, I feel like it's going to
Well,
be of less value.
yeah, it'll just be a tangent show anyway.
Yeah. But we'll chat about that off air and try and get a time where we can all actually meet up and play, even if it makes a Monday night thing being pushed around somewhere or whatever. I'll kill you all this week on Strad, so that next Monday we can just play X-Wing instead.
Sounds good.
There we go. Sounds good.
I'm surprised we're still alive at this point, to be honest.
Me too.
Yeah. But yeah, that was everything from me. I think we kind of got what we wanted for squad building. We all had some ideas, so yeah, hopefully it was an interesting show. We'll see.
I thought it was interesting. I had fun. All
Yep.
right, so we'll do all the closing stuff. Sean, always good to hang out with you.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
And I'm sure, Kris, you have some house cleaning you'd like to do before we go.
Yeah, I wanted to thank all the patrons again. Thanks to Alan who's looking at the template, not the templates, the lack of evade tokens for us. It's going pretty well, so we're moving forward there. Thank you to everyone who's donated and everything like that. I say again, just because I know that I like to reiterate it a little bit. Please, if there's anything that you could use the money for that's going to be better, like make sure you adjusting the levels, make sure it's all at the right point. I'd much rather you guys are doing okay. I know being alive at the moment is getting more and more expensive just because of the nature of the world. So supporting us, we're not going to go anywhere. We'll still be around. I appreciate the support. It is a giant help, but please make sure it's not costing you anything. You're not sacrificing to do it, if that makes sense. But that said, if you do want to chuck us $1 a show or whatever like that, you could support us on Patreon at Lack of Focus Podcast on Patreon. If you'd rather do just a fixed monthly amount, you can support us on a Dice Hate Patreon. If you want to send us any messages, you can send it through Facebook at Lack of Focus Podcast, or you can email us at lackoffocuspodcast@gmail.com. The best way to have an interactive relationship is to jump in a Discord. There's a bunch of conversation going on in there for X-Wing. I know someone jumped in asking for some time to play Squadrons as well, which was a bit of a fun moment. But the link to all of that is always in the show notes. You can watch this VOD over at the Dice Hate YouTube channel. And I think that's pretty much everything. I'm sure I missed something, as I always do, but, because I don't write a script out for this closing.
You've done it 97 times. I'm surprised it hasn't been committed to memory at this point.
Oh.
Like, literally, you have done this 97 times.
I've done it more than 97 times. I believe we actually have like 120 episodes out on the podcast stream now. We're well over 100. It's just that they're not all official numbered shows.
Correct. All right. Fair point.
All right.
So that is going to do it for this one. Do appreciate everyone turning in. And of course, we're going to be looking into some fun gameplay of submission plays on the next episode. So until next time, guys, as always, fly casual. Thank you once again for joining the Lack of Focus X-Wing podcast. Check out Dice Hate Productions for all the latest episodes, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you again next episode.